Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course, all opinions about Brandon's works and the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm your writer.
Also joining us is Evgeni.
Hello, I am Argent.
Also joining us, we have Grace.
Hello, I'm Gatorgirl.
And last but not least, we have Adim.
Hi, I'm Max.
And I'm Chaos. And today, we're doing more Wind and Truth stuff. Obvious. I mean, that's what we're going to be. That's what we're going to be doing for a long time, guys.
It is the era of Wind and Truth.
It is the Wind and Truth era. Yeah, absolutely. So this is full spoilers for Wind and Truth. In like 10 seconds, there's going to be a big spoiler. So you shouldn't be here, is what I'm saying. Okay, don't be
entire Cosmere, because we reserve the right to reference anything.
Well, and I do think that will be relevant here. So okay, all right, go read the book. Ending's pretty good. We're talking about the ending. Okay, so all right, cool. Everyone's gone. Cool. So I know the episode's called Contest of Champions, but this is going to be, we're talking about Retribution. We're talking about the contest.
We lied to you.
Yeah. Well, because if you put Retribution in the title, people will understandably be upset about that. I think that's fair. So we can't call it Retribution, but we're going to talk about Retribution. Just like after Rhythm of War, where we have Taravangian, and Taravangian gets a shard. Now Taravangian gets 2 shards.
What I truly do not want for us is for us to have to keep doing that, where every book Taravangian gets a shard, and we have to like figure out a way
we
to
have 5 new books. But you're saying like title wise.
Yeah. I also don't want. Let me be clear. I think the situation is bad enough as it is.
It's really primarily the titles for the YouTube the podcast.
But he is very inconvenient. So, like, how many Taravangian episodes can we like do a fake out title for?
I mean,
enough is enough.
It'll just be like how we do Oath Pact, where it's like, all right, it's Oath Pact 3. We're doing another Oath Pact episode. We will actually do another Oath Pact episode, which, to be fair, there is a new Oath Pact, so we get to talk about new mechanics that are unclear.
That is true. Yeah.
So we get to do it again, and we get to continue doing that forever.
Or it's like how my brother once told me that he just assumes any ambiguously named episodes are just about Kelsier now. It's like, oh, Kelsier just has a new title in this book that we're naming the episode
That's good.
after.
That's good. I mean, Kelsier was in the ending too. That's
Kelsier with Retribution.
Ooh,
That'd be terrifying.
Would that be worse than Taravangian?
It would be.
Ian's like, yes, categorically yes. So maybe before we lose our minds at a new dual shard, which is completely insane, we should maybe talk about the contest itself before we get into it. Like there is a prelude, and it is the title of the episode, so the true title. So maybe we should start with that. What'd you guys think about the contest? I know we talked about this on the reactions, but I guess kind of maybe the thing with the contest is Odium's champion is Gavinor, aged up Gavinor. Hell yeah! So
I wanna get a vibe check on like the champion.
Okay.
Right. Before we even talk about the contest itself.
Okay.
Because there were theories leading into this book, where some people rightfully guessed that it would be Gavinor. Although I think the predominant, if not the only interpretation, was that it was going to be a literal child champion, right?
Yeah, I think there's a reason that the theory was commonly called baby champ.
Well,
the suckling child.
The suckling child, right? Which is obviously a reference to the Death Rattle.
Yeah, so many Death Rattle chapter titles is just like, oh, it's that. Okay, I got it.
They made it very easy.
Which was great. But I and Joff and maybe more people, but I only remember me and Joff, were long-standing proponents of let's find a way to make Gavilar the champion somehow, because that would have been just such a beautiful like foil to Dalinar's. Dalinar's entire arc has been compared and contrasted with Gavilar's, and so there would have been something poetic to pitting him against that. Alucard was not one of the options that anyone had considered. And we were forced to consider that option for, half a chapter or something like that.
That's the kind of fake out I do enjoy, though, where it's like, wait, what? What?
So
Yeah.
how are we feeling about adult Gavinor, and how are we feeling about him compared to like the other options that were on the table?
So a little known fact about me. I am endlessly fascinated by this concept and story art, or like story of someone who was kidnapped returning home years later and having to like readjust to the old life and the people who knew them while not being the same person.
That does sound like the most Grace Core thing I've ever heard, actually. Knowing you.
Lived so many stories with just like that concept.
It's also kind of Feathercore.
The second I realized what was going on, I was like, I am all in. Like, this is my new favorite character in this entire book series. I want to know everything about this person's, like, Gavinor's life in the spiritual realm and what he's been through and, like, what he's thinking in the moments when Taravangian freezes him and what his life in Irithiru is like after this is all over. Like, I just want to know all of it.
Personally, I find the concept of adult Gavinor fascinating. It's so crunchy. And because being in the fandom, you knew about the baby champ theory.
Yeah.
And I would not have called myself a supporter of the theory coming into this book, but it very quickly became clear that something to do with it was going to happen when Gavinor showed up in the spiritual realm. It's such a mind trip thinking about how he is now older than Renarin.
That is wild. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope he's of a decent importance in the back five. Like, give him Adolin level. I think that would be fair and good. Having to come to terms with like, oh wait, maybe the evil god of hatred was wrong about my family and they're not awful. Oh my god, did I doom the world because I accepted being the champion and then my great uncle was like, I can't kill him. Yeah, this is going to be bad for him and I'm 100% here for it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Taravangian made it clear that he did not care about Gavinor beyond his role in, like, putting Dalinar in an unwinnable situation, right?
I think Gavinor as a choice for, like, in terms of what happened to Gavinor versus how Gavinor was used during the contest. For me, the former is very interesting. The latter was not very interesting.
Yes.
Like, it caused emotional conflict with Dalinar, which was fun, but I was never really interested in like a shard blade duel on top of Urithiru or anything like that. So that part of the contest wasn't what I was interested in, but I am very much hoping and agree with everyone else that Gavinor's mental anguish will be properly explored and expanded upon.
It's good.
And I only bring it up because it informs where his character is going to go, right? He is now in a place where he feels betrayed by yet another parental figure. And so there's going to be, unfortunately, that's going to all happen in the off-screen gap between books 5 and 6. But there's going to be like this dissonance of his memories as a child versus his experiences in the spiritual realm, and like seeing Dalinar just beat the life out of his father again and again and again and again, and like seeing himself fight Dalinar again and again and again. But then Taravangian is just like, nope, you are now frozen because I want you to, like, you were just a pawn the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
It's so delicious in that way. I'm really excited to see where Gavinor goes He was never going to be Gavilar, Evgeni. 0%. I've always said this is 0%.
We had the prologue gave some good ammo to some sort of Gavilar spiritual thing.
We could have had, the Elokar fake out could have been a Gavilar fake out. We could have had a little bit of Gavilar.
Yeah. Never gonna be Gavilar.
And also, this book establishes that, with the quote unquote Blackthorn spren, there is an opportunity for like taking something out of the spiritual realm, an echo of Gavilar, if you will, and doing something with it and like manifesting that. We haven't seen the quote unquote Blackthorn spren in the physical realm, but presumably it's not going to be like something that lives in the spiritual, right? It will get, Retribution wants a general that's not like in another realm. So it could have happened. It could have happened. But
I don't think it was as like because Gavilar doesn't hold place in the cultural consciousness as the Blackthorn does.
Yeah, but we did
because the Blackthorn is this larger than life, even more or less beyond Dalinar, whereas Gavilar is when they think about Gavilar, they think about Gavilar. He doesn't have a cool title.
I agree. It could have been shards can create spren. They have created spren. Retribution could have created, some. Hey, we could have had a Gavilar avatar. I think that is possible.
Gavilar.
Gavilar.
I think that would have been a stupid idea if that happened.
Maybe Gavilar had a connection to Odium from when he got that void light, and one thing leads to another.
I am not saying I am only commenting on the two things at the end, not on the thing in the middle, right? I'm saying it is realmatically plausible for this to have happened, and it would have been fun to see Kulin versus, well, I guess we saw Kulin versus Kulin, Dalinar versus Gavilar contest. Whether that would have been good and how good it would have been in whatever method it was executed, I am leaving off the table.
I think it's a fundamentally bad idea.
Well, I think
it wouldn't be Gavilar, fundamentally, because the Blackthorn isn't Dalinar. So it's it would be immediately oh, you look like my brother, but you're not. So this, the emotions are just not there.
Yeah, but the Navani spiritual scene with fake Gavilar was fun.
It was because it was so fake.
Yeah, true.
One other Odium's champion thing, I liked the throwaway mention about Moash being a potential Odium's champion, and Terry was like, that was a horrible idea.
My predecessor was an idiot.
That only would have worked if Kaladin was champion, which would have been a very different, it would have been a very different rhythm of war in Wind and Truth, obviously. There's maybe a way to make that interesting. But
one more Gavinor thing is that Gavinor is going to have to be confronted by the fact that there is a flesh puppet of him as a child. And I'm that's not good for anybody to think about.
I think the pile of meat will disintegrate into dust.
I don't know. I
think that's
unless it was unless it was destroyed before the tower protections went up. I don't think there's realmatically. I think it's just a meat pile. I don't know what can be done with it, and I feel like people were distracted before the tower protections went up. So I think there's a good chance it's just hanging around somewhere.
I think we should call it Meatnor, and that should be its name.
I do think it's very quickly just going to die on its own. I don't think it's going to dissolve into dust, because Taravangian is not that nice. He's just he just made a meat puppet. It'll do what meat puppets do, and then because it can't consume nutrients. It's just gonna persist until it doesn't.
Maybe the World Hopper Conjurer will have snack.
I guess it is essentially a mass of meat that pulsates a little bit to mimic breathing.
Yeah, maybe don't think about it too much. It's a little
I'm just
horrifying.
like, yeah. Because Gavinor is going to have to like confront like his nurse or nursemaid person, and she's like, "But like Gavinor is right here, flesh puppet."
Me.
In Gavinor's Nurse Interlude, Book 6. Let's
Yeah.
go.
She is the one who lost sight of him and let him get into the spiritual realm in the first
That's
place.
true.
So
Yeah.
It's true. It's all. She's really Odium's champion.
She's also named. She has a name.
Oh,
I don't know what
really?
it is,
I don't
but
remember.
We have it.
I will say Gavinor's gonna need so many years of therapy that I'm not worried that that his character arc won't start until the back half. I'm not worried about that. That'll
The
be
only
fine.
therapists on Roshar are gone.
Yeah, see, he
What
can't
about-
even get the therapy for 10 years until Kaladin comes back. Easy. And that's when we start getting Gavinor POVs. Boom. It all makes sense. We're bringing it together. So I'm not like he's not going to be a well-adjusted guy in 10 years. Like no, it's going to be awful actually.
I mean, I hope so, right? I think the last thing I want to say about Gavinor as a champion or the champion in general is that I think different choices for a champion have like different impact. I think Gavilar and Elokar, if we could have had that in any capacity, are more Dalinar POV focused champions where it like we wouldn't care about a Gavilar champion POV or an Elokar champion POV. I mean, Elokar would have been a little interesting, but the juicy stuff is we are in Dalinar's POV and like he has to confront these things and deal with them. A Gavinor champion is almost the opposite. Like, yes, we are told that Dalinar cares about him like a grandson and all of I don't buy that. I mean, I buy that this is what the book is telling me, but I've never like felt that like
Dalinar's constantly been ignoring him the entire time, which is kind of the point, right?
The book tells me that Dalinar loves Gavinor as like a grandson or whatever. But that's a tell. What the book has shown me is that Dalinar cares deeply or cared deeply about Gavilar and cares deeply about Elokar. And so those two would have been it's interesting to be in Dalinar's head for those. With Gavinor, it's interesting because of the promise for the future where we are going to be in Gavinor's head. And that is an interesting story to have.
True.
To be fair, if you had like 6-year-old Adolin, would Dalinar have spent any more time with him than he spent with Gavinor?
Look, I'm fine. Like, I think Dalinar should not care about Gavinor as much as the book tells me that it does. But the book tells me how deeply he loves this child. And I'm like, that's not... We saw this kid barely in the last 2 books. And now Dalinar has like this... I don't... It's a very telly and not at all showy thing.
Sure.
Ultimately, the contest of champions has been set up since book 1. It's hard to say whether I like it or not, because anything that gets built up that much is going to fall short of expectations. Like, even me, who, like, I deliberately didn't try to theorize what it was going to be like, to kind of avoid like getting my heart set on something and it not happening. So like I am kind of glad it was subverted the way it was. Like the contest didn't actually matter in the end. Yeah. Which like there's a part of me that's disappointed in that, but also I don't think it could have gone any other way. Like this feels inevitable.
It's also thematically appropriate, right? Because the idea for the Contest of Champions was Honor's idea. And in the outcome of this contest, Dalinar decides that, oh no, we cannot continue doing the same thing that we have been doing for the past, 7,000 years or whatever. Like we need a new path. And so that's why the contest becomes irrelevant. Like it all ties itself nicely in a bundle, which I do appreciate.
Yeah, like I don't mind the fact that, like, yeah, there was a Shardblade battle there, which admittedly, Dalinar, like, come on, bring a weapon, like, come on, man.
He brought the book.
Yeah, that was dumb in the battle as well, man. Like, come on. Thematically appropriate, yes. Sound tactics, no, not at all. But
he's a military genius.
Get him.
I did like that Taravangian kind of calls him out, like, why did you not bring a weapon? Like, what did you think this was happening?
What did you think was going to happen?
And he's just kind of like, I don't know.
I brought the book, man. It's fine. And that's fine. But really connecting it with Dalinar becoming honor, like, it's really when Dalinar ascends and Odium's there, and now we have two shards competing, and like, now this is the good stuff right here, right? Because it just beautifully connects with all the Tanavas flashbacks where it's like, the power, what the powers want, like Odium wants to fight, Honor really wants to wreck Odium this entire time, and Dalinar is like thinking, hey, I could beat Odium here. I would destroy the world, but I would get him, you know? And then we just get the Nohadon vision. Oh, man. Just chills. It's the Ascension stuff that I think's really good with this. Like, the Elokar is fine in that we don't just immediately end this in... Because it would be way more disappointing if it was a fight and Dalinar won and they're like, then we're done, right? It's more interesting that there's a quandary that Dalinar doesn't want to kill Gavinor and is trying to find this other path, ascends to honor, and then it's like, I mean, I could totally solve the problem if I kill everyone I love. I can do that. But is there another way?
I just realized that both Taravangian and Dalinar have ascended twice. Because Dalinar ascended to Unity, and then he ascended to Honor.
I don't know if that's technically an ascension.
This is not an officially endorsed opinion of the 17th Shard.
So, Eric, are you saying you don't think, like, a baby Gavinor is the champion and Dalinar is just, like, brains him like he did all the people at the Rift, and then, then he just, like, looks at Taravangian and is like, what, you thought that would be difficult for me? Wouldn't be a satisfying ending?
Rock buds crunched between the Blackthorn's feet like skulls.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's like cultivation really screwed over Roshar in making Dalinar a better person.
That's actually a really funny point, because but man, I love Sunmaker's Gambit, guys. I think my favorite line in the book is just Dalinar renounces his oaths, and he's going through thinking, Taravangian, he wanted power to do what's necessary, but like, he has the power. He doesn't need more power. It's like, but he wants more power.
But he wants more. Yeah.
And then Taravangian takes it, and Dalinar's just like, good luck, Taravangian.
Spotlight.
Yep. And then the shards are like, oh no.
I did really like that whole, like, Taravangian's whole thing was like, I'm gonna prove Dalinar's a hypocrite by, like, forcing him to kill this innocent person. And then Dalinar's solution was by, like, turning the tables on Taravangian and being like, you said you didn't want power and you only took it on because it's like someone needs the responsibility and you're the best person, and like, I am proving you wrong by doing this. Like, you're taking up honor just for the power.
You know, now that we are, and maybe I should have realized this earlier, but like, this is the philosophy battle that I like. Like, the 100%. Yasna Taravangian thing was set up as, this is going to be like an important philosophy battle. It did not feel good for the most part. This, however, like, everything just ties so nicely together, because we know, like, Taravangian's history and who he is and what he has done, because the two are not necessarily the same thing.
Yeah.
And the same for Dalinar, and we've seen the visions, and we know, like, what they think of each other and how they talk to each other and with each other, and we see the outcome. Like, that, this philosophy battle works.
And it connects with what is the way of kings, right? Like, what does a ruler or leader do? Connects with book 1, connects with Dalinar and Taravangian talking in Oathbringer and some in Rhythm of War, and just, oh man, this part is definitely the perfect capstone for the front 5, for sure, right? I love that.
Yeah. And I wonder if part of that is, yes, like this is a contest by its name, but it wasn't structured as a debate like the Yasna Taravangian head-to-head was. Like, this was allowed to be more organic and just like naturally showing their differing views rather than like them like having to talk through their points. So yeah, it just works a whole lot better.
It's much more dramatic, right? This way.
And organic.
And so we're obviously going to talk about all the outcomes and things, but the Sunmaker Gambit is just such great foreshadowing, I think, because we're like, why are we talking with Yanagon about, like, we're playing a lot of towers here, but just like getting Sunmaker Gambit there in the ending, connecting those plot lines. Oh, I love that. Also, the Battle of the Cosmere starts right now. Let's go, guys.
Banger.
If you wanted the back half to be less Cosmere, no. Wind and True says no. That will not be the case, evidently.
Yeah.
So it is going to be much more Cosmere-y. This is the fight for everything. And I think that's great, honestly.
Although I do think the back half is going to be still, pretty Stormlight. I feel confident in that.
I mean, yes.
Not much.
I think it's
around.
Well,
I am immediately proven a fool.
I would say there's going to be a high emphasis on Roshar.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't think this is going to be like a planet hopping adventure.
I do think we could go to Ashen Embrace, but not like outside of the system. But
System
yes.
hopping.
Correct. Like that's what I mean. Within Roshar, Greater Roshar, as it was once mentioned, and then never again.
Yeah, I was just thinking we
it's
haven't
not
heard
going
that
to be
in a
like.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like Era 4 or the Space Mistborn, because it may end up being Era 5 by the time we get to it. That's going to be space opera going to dozens of worlds, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all over the place, for sure.
My read on sort of like the ending and setting up for the back half, and I think from discussion, this is maybe a little bit of a contentious thing, is that I don't think the other shards will be as involved as people think. I think the other shards are mostly going to be Retribution's distraction, while the people who are still on Roshar fighting back sort of like find a way to slip in and deal with him permanently.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we're going to see Valor come in and like fight Retribution.
Boo, that sucks though.
I see shards like coming in and like maybe sending agents to Roshar to treat with the Team Radiant, and the good guys will have to like try and identify ulterior motives from these random aliens they've never talked with before. And I think there will be some interesting stuff there, but I agree that in the end, any resolution with Retribution will be driven by the back half POV characters.
Yeah.
With
it has to be, because they are like, that's how funny would it be though if like book 6 or whatever, there's a bunch of like dudes just coming down on kites and just descending on Roshar.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon figured out a whole bunch of dragon things recently.
Get the dragon riders or something.
Just bring in some dragons, Brandon.
Dragon riders of Pearl.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Before we jump to Retribution, I just had one more question for you guys about the contest.
Yes.
It didn't jump out to me at all, but I was under the impression that there would be some like contest for the hearts of Roshar, hearts of people in Roshar, hearts of men, yeah. And so when I read the contest, that didn't, like, other than like maybe in vague metaphoric ideas of like Roshar has like honor stuff going on and Odium stuff going on. Did anything jump out to you as being particularly in like specifically about the hearts of men though in that contest?
I think the Hearts of Men thing was always a metaphor for this is going to be a philosophy battle.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that like they're trying to win, like they're not doing like a voting thing or whatever. It's, oh, this is about ideologies.
That makes sense.
For me, I think the battle for the hearts of men was a separate thing, and that was Odium going around offering deals to everybody. And yeah, Honor lost that pretty handily across the board.
Yeah. And Grace, I have a lot of thoughts about what you said. So we will 100% get to that because I have opinions. I also had a question as well with the contest that when Dalinar dies, Retribution is trying to grab Dalinar, and Dalinar fades to the beyond and was claimed by someone else. What's the line here?
I thought it was the other, like he was claimed, and then that's what let him fade into wherever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
that's what it was.
Dalinar's soul slipped away from him, stretched, and vanished into the beyond. Taravangian scrambled to hold it, but like water through fingers, he could not. You cannot have him, the powers said, for he is claimed by another.
I think that's Adonalsium nonsense.
I thought it was cultivation.
I think that's like he doesn't, sort of like how shards can't, like Odium has to have like someone who is willing and connected to him. I think like because Dalinar rejected Odium's power or Retribution's power, he can't like forcibly be kept behind.
Yeah, he addresses that actually. Just before that scene, he goes like he emphasizes that Dalinar is an oath breaker, and that should put him in my power.
It's literally the previous paragraph I'm looking here.
I do have thoughts on this, and it's the god beyond.
Adonalsium got beyond, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like at that point, Dalinar is already extending to the beyond. Like that's past the cutoff point. Like there's no pulling back at that point. Once you start stretching into the beyond, that's beyond a shard's purview of power.
Do you guys think if in Dalinar's final moments, instead of like using his body to protect Gavinor from the storm, he just like yeeted Gavinor over the edge, but he have like technically still won, even though he gave up honor?
I mean, at this point, all of the oaths, like he has renounced his oaths. The agreement for a contest has been renounced.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So like but obviously he is still kind of engaged. So like I'm not sure how.
I think Dalinar would be pummeled to death with the rubble, or with the wind or whatever was hitting him before Gavinor hit the ground. They're pretty high up, so
yeah,
Gavinor wouldn't be dead yet.
I think that at that point it wouldn't have mattered. Like the contest was already lost, or like the contest was dissolved. Like,
yeah, the contest.
It would have been meaningless at that point.
Yeah.
God, Dalinar, you just gotta toss Gavinor off the side of the building. Hey, like, come on.
I'm saying
I was like, it's technically to the death, and Dalinar did die first. But if he had used those final moments to kill Gavinor first, they have gotten Alefkar back.
Right. So it wouldn't have mattered because the agreement was that like Retribution was no longer bound by the, he didn't have to do anything.
It does seem like the power of honor likes that Taravangian's like still going to fulfill his side of the bargain. Like it seems like honor's pretty happy with that. So let's say in this hypothetical, if Dalinar did do that, it's possible Taravangian would give it back. But I don't think he has to. But he's trying so hard to just be like, I'm gonna make honor and Odium very happy. That's my plan. I'm not gonna fight against these. That's foolish. That's very interesting, actually.
It is fascinating, and this is starting to dovetail a little bit into like the shards and the intent of Retribution and the intents of the two shards.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is interesting, like the way Taravangian is like trying to placate or to juggle first the intent of Odium and like feeding, like he's trying to like figure out what the intent is and what it wants. Like the idea that, his predecessor thought that this was all passion, but it's the passions of strife that most excited the power. And like, so he's trying to like feed specific thoughts to this shard, while he himself doesn't necessarily believe those and is like trying to, right? So it's like this wild entity that he's trying to hold at bay. And now he's got two of those to deal with.
It's really interesting because we've seen what's happened with Harmony, where I really think, as the Lost Metal Ars Arcanum said, right, that Ruin is kind of in subservience to preservation there with how Sazed's designed. Sazed doesn't want to blow things up, right? So he's not giving Ruin what Ruin would want, right, in a sense. And Teravangian is not doing that. He is not bringing Odium to heal. He's like, yeah, okay, let's do it, man. It's also interesting because I feel like Teravangian's perspective will be warped as he continues to try and placate the shards. Like this also seems like an unsustainable way to do things in a way. Like it's going to be a much more active way to do things. Yeah. That's for sure. Yeah, Teravangian might not agree, but he's still going with what the shards want. And in a sense, all the vessels are, well, maybe, I shouldn't say all, we don't know the details of how the other vessels do things. But the vessels are like channeling the intent in certain directions. And it almost seems like Teravangian's, like he's kind of doing that, but he's also kind of just, yeah, I'm not going to go against the shards, Will. Like, that's a bad idea.
Yeah. I think it's a bit of both going on, that like the thing that sets Retribution apart from Harmony is that Harmony, the direction the shards want to go is directly opposite. Yes. So like there is no like wiggle room there for Harmony. Retribution, like they're large, they have significant alignment.
Yes.
So like as long as something is in vaguely this direction, Teravangian's not going to have problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Sazed is not a particularly good vessel, just sort of in general, in my opinion. Like he doesn't really, I think he's too focused on his own morals compared to where, but also like the hybrid shard that he's holding, I think just should not be able to exist long term. In any form, really. Whereas I think Retribution is like a really good, like the idea of punishing Oathbreakers is like probably the perfect way you could combine Odium and Honor. And so it's like Teravangian's going to get warped because a vessel will always get warped by their shard.
Yeah.
But I think the shard itself is much more stable. And so as long as Teravangian doesn't try to do like what Ati was doing with Ruin or whatever, he'll probably, at least in for the time period that the Cosmere is going to take, I don't think that he has to, he's in imminent danger of anything, barring some other stuff that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing where it's like, it's an old wob, but like Ruin and Cultivation would fit so much better together.
Absolutely.
And then like Preservation and Honor would probably vibe somewhat.
Yeah. Especially with the idea that Honor is like, Honor cares about the oaths made and like ignores all nuance, which is very like staticky way of thinking about things, which is very much in line with Preservation.
I do just love the line of oaths are important and Retribution would destroy anyone who thought otherwise. Like, if that's not the top quote for the Coppermind, but that's the top quote right there. Like, that sums it up.
It is such a good intent, and it's like it's so well described, and it's so like it connects with like people understand, like because we have been like on Twitter and on Reddit, and we know like these kinds of like the self-righteousness of it all.
Right.
I'd love a poetic description of a shard. I love those all the time, but I feel like Retribution is one of those shards where you don't even need it.
Yeah, it's I'm like, I got it.
It's just so clear.
You still give it to me anyway. Like, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But
I do like the explicit call out of oath breakers.
Yes.
Because I think, yes, we can imagine, like, you just say, oh, there's a shard, it is now retribution. What do you think it does? And like, I think we'll get pretty close to that. I think the specific context of oath breaking like gives it so much more meaning and so much more Roshar.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's another really interesting thing with the intent, though, in that Honor's becoming conscious. And so that, like, I think, Adam, that yes, this would be a long-term stable arrangement. Something is a little different with Honor, right? So that's a very interesting aspect. And it has to be that that's somehow the downfall that our main characters are going to exploit somehow, I think, to get a win. It really seems like this book is, okay, it's Empire Strikes Back in a sense, like, oh yeah, that was bad. And like, whatever the end is going to feel more like the better endings that we've had in Stormlight before, like Battle of Thalen Fields, where it's like we had a big victory, whereas like this, I would not say it was a big victory, right, at all. So,
though I do think this is less, I'll say less dark, but that's not exactly what I mean, than Empire Strikes Back. I think Empire Strikes Back ends on a much more of a down note than this does.
Yeah, that's true.
Purely
for tonal reasons, right? So if you take things objectively, Roshar is in a bad place. Roshar is a bad place, in fact, right now. But the way a lot of these things are framed makes it seem better than it is, right? Literal ray of sunshine over a Razormere.
Brandon couldn't make it more obvious. It's like, hey, there is a ray of sunshine here, guys.
Hoyd just cannot stop thinking about how much of a genius Dalinar is. So, like, these things. Anyway, that's not the tone is a separate thing.
Yeah. But Honor
on the topic of baby Honor or whatever nice
the Honor entity.
No, boo, get out of here.
Probably, I feel like Honor entity in this case is much more apt than the Ruin entity.
Hey, don't call out
no
my
shade on early theorizers.
My 2008 self here. Come on.
I mean, yeah, I agree that having I agree that that's where, at least, even if this doesn't end up paying off and like they use Honor to destroy Retribution or something, that's certainly what it's for. The foreshadowing is right now, I think. And I think that having some inner conflict in the Shard is going to will provide some interesting story opportunities. But I would just hope that this doesn't go the route of the Odium part of Retribution is bad. Luckily, there's a good part, which is Honor. And because I don't think that any of the Shards should be good.
I mean, this book proves that all shards are bad. So
yes,
actually, I'm worried. Like,
what I find interesting about the baby Honor thing is that, like, when Dalinar is talking to this new young child creature, he thinks that they need to learn, like, the emotions behind people and why they make oaths and why they break oaths. Like, that is the lesson Dalinar thinks they need to learn. And I kind of think Dalinar, because Dalinar sent Honor to Teravangian. And I wonder, yes, there is the Sunmaker's Gambit aspect of that, but I think there is an aspect of Honor has something to learn from Odium about how people feel.
It's interesting.
In understanding
that. Like, I think almost in the text.
Because people do, like, break oaths out of, like, anger. People break oaths out of, like, hate and, you know, lust and things like that. All that is, like, why people break oaths a lot of the time. I just think there's something interesting about that of, like, Honor will clearly learn from Odium. I wonder how much, like, Odium will be influenced by Honor, too.
I think the way this is contextualized when Dalinar does it is he's like, oh, this child needs more time. This is how I give them more time.
Going back to what Adam was saying about, like, not wanting, like, the Odium part of Retribution to be bad, is that I think the Odium part of Retribution is going to be bad. the good part of Odium is going to be Bidomishram. It's going to be Sianat. Like the parts that aren't directly controlled by Teravangian.
Interesting.
Like the semi-autonomous parts of Odium.
You can't even say
show like Odium is more than just what Teravangian thinks it is.
True.
Yes.
That's where like the good aspects are going to come out.
Yeah, like I don't know if I necessarily want Honor to be like good per se, but there's definitely this overall tone in the Cosmere. Every Cosmere word, tone,
Yep.
We're doomed. But where like these things in their extremes are bad, and it needed to be balanced with all the rest of the aspects of Aiden Alcium, and that's what made it like provided it context, and then that's what makes it work. But
God's own divine hatred separated from the virtues that gave it context.
And Honor just focusing just on holding oaths is not that's obviously very bad, right? So having these other aspects is really important. So I just wonder where Honor, the entity, fine, is going with that, and how that's going to eventually be Teravangian's downfall.
I had this vague thought of like in Wind and Truth, there's a mention that Odium is like the harsher, more extreme passions, whereas Devotion got like the gentle love.
Yeah, right.
I had this vague thought of like, what if now that Devotion and like the bulk of that power is in the door, Odium could somehow forge a connection with like the pieces of it still in the spiritual realm and become like a true balanced shard of passion. I don't know how realistic
interesting.
that is. It was just like a thought I had.
So I actually have had a similar thought. My concern is, I think that'd be really cool. I think that's a really cool idea. My concern is that Dominion is also in that mix.
Yeah.
And Dominion is not does not sound like a happy shard.
No, that seems
Dominion's
very
probably
controlled.
the worst possible shard that Retribution could get a hold of.
I think
That would be bad.
Teravangian is going to jive with Dominion big time.
Yeah, so maybe if you get Devotion, that would balance out Odium, but then Dominion's still weighing it that way. Yeah.
And I think there are some nasty things that exist between Dominion and like the current version of Honor.
Yeah, true. That's a really good point
So
too.
we are getting into like crusade territory here, I think.
Well, that sounds like exactly what Retribution would want to do. So that's the thing. But I do really like that idea, Grace, that I think that is why Race originally went to wreck like Devotion, right? And honestly, probably even Dominion, because Race as Odium wanted that like control-y aspect and didn't want competition in that way. Whereas Teravangian, he would not have that problem, and he'd probably take those, you know?
He did wonder, he did think that Raze was foolish to not take on other shards, which is it is interesting that in this way I think Raze was I think he did make the right, like, I think the choice to not pollute his intent with other, like, we are already seeing problems with like having
a tri-shard might be like even more disastrous.
Like how many can you add to like until you run into the harmony problem?
It almost just reminded me of like if you were a member of two different orders and you swore two different sets of oaths. It's like, how can you appeal to both of these? And if there was Demotion and Dominion along with Honor and Odium, God, that's terrifying. Like, how do you appeal to all of that? It's wild.
There is something else about the kind of the intent of the shard and the intents. I think we're going to be here for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I wanted to touch on, and that was, and unfortunately, there's no clean segue for this.
Cool.
But I found it interesting that it is the shards themselves, Honor and Odium, that don't like each other.
Rather than the vessels, you mean? Or just the vessels?
Yes, rather than the vessels. Like that's not necessarily something I expected. Like Ruin and Preservation, I could see those two. They are very diametrically opposed intents, and so the shards on their own would probably be in conflict.
Sure.
But Honor and like there was something very personal about, you know, the moment Dalinar ascended, it was like he was very like Honor was pushing him to like destroy his ancient enemy, and things like that. When Tanavast was like deep in the intent of the shard, it was like that's when he got goaded into almost clashing. I mean, he kind of clashed with Odium, and that was like Honor has a very specific beef with Odium, and I find that interesting.
I think it can tie into what Grace mentioned about like one of the main reasons that oaths are broken is like passions, those kinds of things. So could be something like that.
Yeah, I think part of it is also there's a reason Brandon didn't just call it hatred; he called it odium, because odium is more than just hatred. It's also like the being worthy or like inspiring hatred.
Yeah.
And like there is a wob about like that also being a part of all of it. So like I can kind of see that also being involved here of like part of the reason Honor or maybe the other shards as well like instinctively hate Odium is because that's kind of Odium's job.
That's that is quite funny. I do like that. I think my tack with that, Evgeni, is more that these powers have been stuck in conflict for so long, and so like Odium obviously hates it and like is just so like, oh, I shouldn't have agreed with that confrontation in the mountains with Tanavast cultivation and them like that. That was a bad idea. I didn't realize what I was agreeing to. Terrible plan. Honor, I think, just remember, it's Stormlight wants action, right? And so I think that's an aspect to it where, like, the power of Honor, like, yeah, man, just get him. He's garbage. Just get rid of this guy. And why aren't you doing that? And so it's almost like the powers. I don't know if Honor would react that way if Honor was just in some totally different place. Like, I don't think Honor would. But because Honor, the power, and Odium, the power, have been locked in this struggle for so long, the powers want it done. You know, they like, let's fight it out, get wrecked. And they're just, they want to do something else and just finally be done because they don't really have like that consciousness, right? They just have these almost basal desires. Kind of.
Honor does.
Well, Honor does now,
yes. Honor that's true. Also, like, looking at Odium is like, Odium, she keeps trying to break this oath. Like, just do it. Just keep it. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
not understand that, like, that's not Odium's whole deal.
Yeah.
I also would be wonder how much, like, for thousands of years on Roshar, people have viewed these two powers as like diametrically opposed, and how much that perception and like over the course of time, like, you know, people radiant swearing oaths and like vowing to fight Odium's powers or whatever have like influenced Honor to see Odium as its enemy.
Definitely influencing Honor. I think that's plausible. Investiture coming alive and gaining sapience, I do think it would be shaped by that. I don't think Odium's shaped by that at all, necessarily. I think I
think Odium just hates everyone and view anyone as its enemy after this long. Like,
that's true. They don't need the perception to have that. He's got it covered.
An equal opportunity hater.
Yeah. Yes. That's Odium's top code. Actually, equal opportunity hater. Yeah.
There is something about the power of Odium, though, which is, I think it has changed a little bit along the direction of like wanting to get out.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So there is like, yes, we do see like a nascent honor sapiens develop. I do think that the Shard of Odium has also, like, the investiture has, even though it's being held by a vessel, it has maybe not changed necessarily, but learned some things. Like, it remembers being stuck here for so long. The shard itself wants out.
True.
As does the Shard of Honor, for that matter.
Yeah.
And so I do think there is a little bit to, these two have developed and have learned a little bit. Maybe even their intents have changed a little bit in response to one another. Not to like a different intent, but like to a different shade of that intent.
I don't know about that, but I do agree that what Odium has been focused on and like pulling race, you can just see that in the Tanavas flashbacks, especially where race is just like, I need to get out of here, man. Like, come on, let's just get it done.
Also, the last race scene ever where he was being pulled or pushed apart by the power.
Yeah,
with the Teravangian scene.
Yeah, so I think that the weight of the shard really just wanting to get this done and get out of here probably like really weakened race over time, right? Because race was not giving the shard what it wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
because he couldn't,
right? And the shard is like, I don't care about these oaths. Like, let's get done.
I guess theoretically he could have, right? He could have left Roshar at any point of time, and the shard would have just been like, okay, I'm done with you. Right? It's the idea of, breaking an oath exposes you, it weakens you.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff.
Race is a selfish prick, and so he wasn't going to do that. We'll do a whole episode on spiritual realm stuff. I love how much of a asshat Race is. Like, it's just nice to see the OG vessels being just the OG vessel cattiness. I love that. It's great.
Whoever thought giving him the Shard of Hatred was a good idea?
Yeah.
Like the people of when they're watching Ashen Knight's destruction and Teravangian is like sobbing, holding a dying child in Race Spears. It's like, could have gone better. I think we overestimated the amount of power they could hold.
This did go too far, actually. And he's just like,
Speaking of Teravangian crying while holding a dead child, the Odium interludes leading up to Retribution. I think there were a few things to sort of maybe that foreshadowed this specific intent and foreshadowed Teravangian's compatibility with the two, with Honor and Retribution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Odium interludes in this book go a long way to like make the resolution of the Contest of Champions not only make sense, but also feel almost inevitable in hindsight, or maybe not even in hindsight, like in the middle of it, it's like, oh yeah, obviously this is what he's going to do, right? Because I think Teravangian being power hungry has always been a little bit in the subtext.
Yeah.
Because so much of what he actually says is that, the way of kings, the burden of leadership, the burden of kingship, the person who someone has to make the difficult decisions, and all of that. But it is notable that all of those difficult decisions did end up putting, he king of Kharbranth, king of Yakaved.
It needs to be me to make the difficult decisions. Yes, someone does, but when I mean someone, I mean me specifically, actually.
Yeah. He always sort of, Kelsier parallels almost to me where they're both, so they're both characters who sort of see the idea of taking on, like, dirtying themselves almost, like doing the bad thing for others,
for the right
they see
reason.
that as like
for the greater good.
Like the idea of doing bad stuff for the greater good appeals to them. I think for slightly different reasons, but I think that's one thing. That's sort of where Dalinar and Teravangian, at least current Dalinar and Teravangian, one of their biggest like branching off points is Teravangian almost relishes the prisoner, like the idea of that one Nohadon story where there's like men to be hanged, and
Yeah.
They love
Dalinar
that.
was really conflicted about it, and Taravangian seemed almost happy with the idea of, yeah, I'd probably kill innocent people, but someone's got to do it, and it's the king's job. And so
That's
I feel like that's somehow ties into how well he works with Odium and Honor.
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're totally right that Dalinar just he hates that idea of doing it. Terrifying that maybe Taravangian and Kelsier would get along quite well. Like, I mean, sorry, in that philosophical aspect, right, where Kelsier is okay to, hey, someone's got to die to make these spikes, and they might as well be evil people, I got to do it. I don't think Kelsier would. He's so pro Scadrial that he wouldn't like help Taravangian. But
also, like, big Kelsier character point. He hates nobles and
okay,
nobility.
that's true too. Yes.
He's not like this guy's a literal king. Nah, top of the hit list.
The punch list.
Calvin too. Look at him.
Yeah. Talking about the Odium interludes, I find it so interesting that like Odium can feel everyone's pain and anger. Like we go back to that line of like he was once a kind and gentle man before he was like corrupted by ruin.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've only seen like power hungry assholes take up Odium, but I'm not sure that someone who like is genuinely an empathetic, wanting to do good person taking up Odium would actually be much better, because it's like they're just like driven mad by the pain of everyone they can feel, and like want to like bring like retribution, I guess, upon the people who like caused it.
And I do want to like, I don't want us to be too harsh towards Taravangian. Yes, he is power hungry. He is not cruel for the sake or malicious for the sake of cruelty and malice. Like, he genuinely cares for Kharbranth. In fact, that's very important. He like he's not the kind of person who would like weep as he is killing or stuff like that. But like, he doesn't truly cherish the idea of violence, and like he sees violence and things like that as a means to an end, I think. And so he's not, I don't want to bring like redemption into this. I don't want to call him irredeemable, because that's a separate conversation. But there is empathy in him. In fact, he spent half his life being, on average, more empathetic than at least recent years. So there is that side of him there as well.
Yeah, I just remember reading that first Odium interlude and being like, oh, it's the empathetic side of him that is feeling everyone's pain and like hating it and wanting to cause it to end. That is going to drive him to do those things. And just thinking that was like the coolest twist ever, after like books of being like, no, his like intellectual, no empathy side is making all these plans that are heartless and causing the death of these people.
I don't remember exactly. He just feels the pain of people in Roshar, right? Or does he talk about vaguely feeling?
He says he senses everyone.
Okay. Because I was just wondering if that was specifically because Odium is invested in Roshar that he's feeling these things, or if it's just no matter where he is, he would be feeling it.
I would have to look. I do think he like extends out into the Cosmere to like sense other things. I think it's a thing where like if he extends to his thoughts to a planet, he would feel it, but he's not like latently feeling literally everyone in the Cosmere in a sense. So it's like everything that is possible to be perceived at any point he is feeling, in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's feeling individuals. He's just like, oh, there is pain and anger everywhere. I do like how they like build up like the idea of a god divided and him going, okay, I'm gonna see what my emotional side thinks about all of this, and then I'm gonna see what the rational side thinks about all of this, and kind of it was not a fake out, but it was a little, cultivation going, okay, but what does Taravangian think about all of this, right? Because like, yes, your emotional side thinks that it is good for you to continue the war, and your reasonable side thinks that it's good for you to continue. What do you think? Like he goes, okay, but there are these people that I respect, and if they oppose me, maybe there is like, right? That's kind of, am I the asshole? And then he go, no, it is they who are out of touch. I want like someone has to be the king of everything. I want to be that someone.
I don't think it was, am I the asshole? No, I think it was, am I the asshole? Yes, but someone has to be, and I want it to be me.
Do we think that Retribution is going to have this dual nature that Taravangian had as Odium?
As like Odium versus honor, or like emotion?
The same thing of like intelligent versus empathy.
I think so, because that's a function of the vessel, and the vessel is the same. In as much as it mattered after, like, because there is the point in the interludes where it's like, it's Taravangian, then it just switches to Odium. So in as much as like the divide mattered after that point, it's going to continue to matter.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a relevant thing. I think he can choose to let one side rule him, but he doesn't need to, and I don't think that he will.
Yeah. So another interesting thing is the first Odium interlude is called The Divided God. We've had a long-standing death rattle, a death rattle that we do not have a chapter title here. 3 of 16 ruled, but now the Broken One reigns. Is Taravangian the Broken One?
I think he fits it better than Odium did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the fact that Cultivation fled Roshar at the end means that this either happened or has yet to happen.
It could be yet to happen.
I think with the fact that like I don't think a world where Cultivation is still on Roshar means that like the Broken One can reign. To me, if it's
I don't know if I agree with that.
Like, no, I'm saying like I think with like I think that
kind of the idea that if Cultivation's here, then it's the Broken One and Cultivation that are reigning.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the other shards need to go, and it can only be one guy. Yeah. Or girl.
Yeah. So I think it's either like Retribution now, or I think it's some like end of book 10 Retribution shatters, and there's like living honor. Like thing person is the Broken One or something. I don't know.
I have an idea.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't like this idea because it presupposes things about a character we don't know much about.
Great.
But like the 3 of 16, like obviously the shards.
Yes.
So I don't think the Broken One can be 1 of the 16 or 2 of the 16. Or 2, like, because like there is the line about like Taravangian is like looking away from Roshar for the time being, and he needed to leave behind a regent that is L. What if the Broken One is L?
Oh, that's interesting.
L would hate this because L doesn't want titles.
That's actually really funny. Okay, interesting.
I just don't see L as like 3 of the 16 ruled, now Broken One reigns. Suggests to me, it doesn't need to, but it suggests that the Broken One is on the same tier as the 3 of the 16.
I will
there's-
agree it's implied.
There is a
I don't think
reasonable
it's
argument.
required.
For sure, yes, and you can see, okay, 3 of the 16 ruled as rulers of Roshar. Now the broken one, El, is the sole ruler of Roshar, and like you can make it work. I don't love it either, but I think there's a reasonable argument to be made for. Yes, the broken one doesn't need to be, or maybe even cannot be one of the 3, but retribution is retribution is not just Honor and Odium holding hands. It is a new entity
And a new vessel, right?
I just had an amazing thought. 3 of the
Terrifying.
16,
Okay.
Honor, Odium, Cultivation
Okay.
ruled. Now the broken one, the remnants of Adenolzium in terms of the Wind, Night, and Stone raid. And like a post Stormlight 10 thing.
I love you being on the show, Grace. Welcome. I missed you on reactions. This is what I want you here for.
I think Adam, you had a thing that 2 of us.
I was just going to say,
you.
going with the idea that the death rattle is describing something that's happening. Well, Retribution has his focus turned away. If that's the case, then the person who I would, or the individual I would say who is ruling Roshar, could be Bam, Otto Mishram, just because they escaped.
Okay.
They have a history of doing stuff when Odium's attention is not on Roshar.
I'm very interested in this.
I just want to go back and disagree with Evgeni.
Great.
Sure,
Perfect.
man.
Let's do
Because
it.
like, this goes back to my opinions on harmony of like, is harmony a new thing? I'm like, yes, but also very much no.
New evolved design.
That like Honor and Odium are not just gone. Like they're still in there. They're just like given a new name when they're holding hands inside another person. It's not like they're just gone.
Yeah, but they're not just inside another person. They are inside each other.
Same difference, in my opinion. They still exist as separate entities while they're being one thing. Also,
Yes.
I do just want to point out the text of the death rattle, which is 3 of 16 ruled, but now the broken one reigns.
Yes.
They are different concepts. Ruling versus reigning. Like ruling tends to be like more active, like controlling everything, whereas like reign is like more ceremonial. So like
Interesting.
I was about to say the Queen of England, but like she's
the king.
So like the King of England doesn't rule England or the United Kingdom. He reigns. I don't know if that has any impact on this thing, but
It rained for months, actually.
Yeah, no, the there has been, like
Lots
for
of rain
years,
in Roshar.
for years there have been this, like, I'm not even going to call it a theory. It's a Krimpolst that
Right.
this is it's a misinterpretation of the death rattle, because death rattles are, they're spoken, they're not written. And so the idea is that it's not, rain as in rule, it is rain as a falling rain. And here is the forever storm just raining
that's
down.
good. That's good.
I think we have a different death rattle that describes the Forever Storm. But
Yes,
Oh yeah,
we have,
absolutely. And I do
We have
want
a
to do death
sequence of,
rattle
like, 4.
episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I am sold on Broken One being an epithet for Adenolzium because I just think that's cool.
That is pretty cool. That is that. So yeah. So that would mean we need to expel the solution is defeating or expelling
or he just gets out.
from Roshar. And so it is the old gods ruling, I guess.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't. Yeah. Okay. I think I still like that it's Teravangian, just not a form of Teravangian we've seen yet. Kind of like Harmony versus Discord.
Oh, you think he gets worse?
I mean, I can't imagine he gets better. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I mean,
with the Odium, with the Honored Time Bomb in him, yeah.
Yeah, like that's just it's probably going to be bad for him personally and lead to some conflict. But like there's always been, I think the reason why we're like, is the broken one Odium? Because the Stormfather's like, Odium reigns, you know?
Yes.
And so I still think it's possible, but indeed, there wasn't a chapter title called The Broken One. So, like, if there was a chapter title called The Broken One, we'd be like, okay. It's Retribution. We got it. So, I'm going to go with future form of Taravangian, whatever state he's in later, you know? I think that's good. I do like your Adenalcium theory, Grace, even though I also kind of hate it, but, you know. There you go. You're here.
Yeah.
Maybe they just forgot to capitalize the O in one. It's talking about the Imperiality God.
This is good. This is why you're on the show. Excellent.
And me and Ian are here to disagree with each other.
Yeah, see, that's great. We're perfectly balanced like Adenalcium was. Really. We have all the virtues to give this show context.
The shards of the 17th shard.
Yes. Cool. So I think we want to talk about some consequences of all's what happened and with retribution and things. And yeah, you know, we'll talk about the Night of Sorrows, obviously. But I kind of want to talk about our good buddy, the Blackthorn. he's here. What do you guys think of Blackthorn being back? It's kind of a fake out death, you know. What do we think's gonna happen with him?
I would not call this a fake out death because this is a new entity.
Mm-hmm.
I love this idea so much. It's maybe problematic, but I think this is the best of both worlds of giving us Dalinar as fused, but also giving him a noble death.
True.
And like, because like if Dalinar had just become a fused, like he would have resisted. Like he wouldn't be going along with all of Odium's stuff. Like I think there's a line about how like Odium like could have compelled him to do so. Blah 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 blah. Still, it would be then a compulsion. It's not doesn't hit as hard as like young Dalinar would absolutely go along with this stuff and be excited. This is the Dalinar that like goes with the thrill.
Yeah, there's even a quote. Retribution asks the Blackthorn, "Will you serve me when I take war to the stars?" And Blackthorn responds, "It is what I do."
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And like this also, it's close enough to Dalinar that it will still be angsty when his family has to deal with the Blackthorn without like Dalinar being stuck in a like. It's the best of both worlds. Like Dalinar is off in his eternal rest. A part aspect of him is still running around doing awful stuff and causing pain. It's like, yes.
Yeah, I think there's still a possibility for some like post Blackthorn Dalinar to sort of rise to the surface from that like connection-y thing that Dalinar did with this Blackthorn Spren, where he like sort of gave him a mind blast in the vision of the rift. And so I feel like if Brandon wants to, he can tie that into later Taravangian Blackthorn interactions or Dalinar or Blackthorn Adolin interactions or whatever. Have some like artificial memories rise up and give us some more angst that way too.
things. I mean, I think it is very exciting. I'm almost curious if like the connection between this new Blackthorn Spren and the Unmade and whatever they are and like how they were created. I don't think the Blackthorn Spren is an Unmade, but I'm just like, that's just a thought I had of like, I wonder if this is like similar to how the Unmade were first created at all.
Well, earlier in this, it's actually the thing we read earlier. His broken oaths put his soul in Teravigian's hands, and he would make an Unmade from him. But then Dalinar slips away. Then he uses this like memory, the legendary memory thing, to form this new entity. Yeah. So I think that's interesting.
You can definitely make a case for, maybe the Unmade, or at least some of the Unmade, like the more thinking Unmade, like Mishram and Janat, maybe they were people or Spren that were Unmade, remade by Odium in this kind of, he grabs this, like, this is a soul that is within his control one way or another, and then he like reshapes that soul into something else.
Yeah,
I think you can definitely make that.
But just imagine like Odium Retribution recovers the thrill, and like the Blackthorn Spren charging across the a battlefield with like the thrill as his lieutenant.
I thought you were as his many horses. I thought you were gonna go into like a thrill bondsmith route, because that's also fun.
I like the thrill as his mount, like that.
Yeah.
The thrill as his lover. This is we're gonna get a romance in the back half. Blackthorn's friend and the thrill.
For Ship and Rip, we'll have to put Blackthorn separate from Dalinar.
and then pull both of them.
Yes.
I'm a little conflicted on this, actually, on the Blackthorn thing.
Okay.
Not on the shipping of Dalinar and the Blackthorn. That I'm not conflicted about. And it's so. It has been well established that my role on this podcast is to disagree with Ian, or to be a source of a thing, or
really
someone. Yeah, I am the anti other people.
An obstacle for character growth.
The antagonist. Yes.
I am the not the anti-hero. The antagonist is right. Ian thinks this is the best of both worlds. I think it's a compromise. And it's a compromise between not having a Blackthorn, right? Dalinar just wins. I mean, he doesn't win, but like he loses in a very good way, and then rides off into the sunset. And the other option is he loses, and he loses hard. And as an Oathbreaker, he falls fully within Retribution's control and becomes effused, and like he essentially gets turned into the Blackthorn in some capacity. And I think by walking the middle road, where he does get to ride off into the sunset, but we also end up with a Blackthorn, I think we lose a little bit of the emotional punch. Like the Blackthorn is a separate entity. Yes, it is like kind of the legend of young Dalinar, but like we don't have that emotional attachment to that personality, to that character. Whereas having like the real Dalinar be a fused Dalinar, and obviously we were gonna call him the Blackthorn because that name is badass. Like having that would have just been so much crunchier for readers. Like knowing, it's book 6, book 7, book 8. It is, I don't know, Stormlight Era 5. Sorry, not Stormlight, Mistborn Era 5. And there's a fused Dalinar / Blackthorn there, and like, this is still the Dalinar that we remember, even though he doesn't act at all like it. I think that would have been really, really juicy and really crunchy. Also, the concept of something being both juicy and crunchy is interesting. Yeah, and so I do think this is a compromise. I do think it is the right compromise to make, because I think now in hindsight, I think that fused Dalinar would have been a betrayal of Dalinar's character arc.
Yeah.
Because Dalinar's character arc has been about him like rising above and freeing himself from Odium and from his past. Well, accepting his past, but like growing beyond it. And so like kicking him back into the thing that he overcame and defeated and rose above would have felt bad. So I think this is the correct compromise to make, but by making it, it weakened the effect for me.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Evgeni here. Whereas yes, this is a compromise, but it's a compromise that is better than either option. Because yes, if it was real Dalinar, it would have been both crunchier and juicier. And I think it would have been great for a book. I think because I'm certainly hoping this Blackthorn sticks around for Endgame of the Cosmere.
Yeah.
I think if it was real Dalinar for that time, it would have been oh, this is just
sad,
awful.
Yeah. I'll say for the duration that Retribution's a problem. If whether Retribution is in Cosmere Endgame post Stormlight Archive the series, I don't know, but yeah,
fair.
But
fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
I almost like the idea of Retribution is dealt with, but we still have this remnant of the Blackthorn running around causing problems.
Oh,
that would actually be really cool. Actually,
that is interesting.
like Night Brigade, but it's just like Dalinar and his elites. Let's go, the Blackthorn's elite.
Dalinar riding the thrill with his elites surrounding him.
Get some payoff to the old bloods. They'll be relevant.
Oh
yeah, the old bloods are totally coming up in the back half
with their tattoos.
Oh boy,
yeah.
See, I would love that because it's very Lord of the Rings.
True,
because the whole thing about Lord of the Rings is each successive thing is lesser than the one before.
Yeah.
The first one was Morgoth, who was a godlike entity. Then it was Sauron. And there's notes about how in the future any big threat would be purely mundane, which makes me think that's not the vibe Brandon is going for. Brandon ramps up. He does.
I think the Cosmere goes the other way.
Yeah.
The magic comes back, guys. Doesn't go away
every time. Just every time.
Yeah.
I will say, Grace, it's very plausible that the thrill would be found and released. I think that's possible, but I really don't want that to happen because that does feel like if there's 9 unmade and we have 10 books, it's we actually dealt with one and it is such a beautiful thing there.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
we dealt with one and it would suck for all that hard work to be undone, but we've got a Blackthorn spread. We need, that's the iconic duo, the Blackthorn and the Thrill.
Okay.
We need the team up.
No, I think you're right. And Dalinar did, when he formed that connection with the Blackthorn, what he did was give him his memories.
Yeah.
He showed him his life. And one of the parts of that life was yeeting the thrill into the ocean.
Seducing the thrill first, and then
seducing the thrill, and then yeeting in the air, yeah.
There's also the whole thing of chucking the thrill into the ocean is kind of a stupid idea.
Wow, what a surprise.
It was the best option they had.
Especially considering your Thero is captured in the book, so.
Yes. I'm pretty sure Brendan has talked about, it's not impossible to find the thrill.
Yeah.
At this point. It would just, take time and effort that, Odium, wasn't doing at the moment. He has 10 years. And also he was reshaping the entire continent maybe with the Roshar quakes. He could easily just yeet the ruby onto land and deal with that.
I evaporated all the oceans to find I guess he could just remove all the water, put the water back once he found the thrill.
Well,
hey,
I don't
that's
think
why the Pure Lake is gone.
He even needs to do that.
No,
I think
probably
he
not.
could just find it's just like getting someone in position to like then retrieve it was the hard part.
They should have just lashed it to space. Now that I think about it, that would have been harder to get to.
Just
That
have
would have been
sun.
way smarter. Lash it into the sun.
And just have Dalinar keep refueling the Windrunners. Like just supercharge that lashing. Just get it out of there.
I just have a few things about Blackthorn versus an actual fused Dalinar. I think if Odium had gone with the unmake Dalinar, I think that we would that wouldn't necessarily be a betrayal of Dalinar's character arc, because we see that unmade, especially the intelligent ones, can like have to an extent their own free will. So I was kind of confused when it was implied that unmaking Dalinar would sort of solve any problem with opposition to Odium, because I feel like a hypothetical unmade Dalinar would still be able to oppose would have some free will, but I guess the change in intent may make it so that Retribution doesn't have to like the sort of free will thing that we saw he had to respect with. I think Sionat was the one.
I think the free will was always going to be a factor. The thing is, he can just assume control and go, hey, yeah, I see that you were trying to rebel against me and like be kind to these people that I've asked you to conquer. It is my divine will that you don't do that and you actually massacre everyone in this city. Go.
And I guess
it's kind of like the marsh in Hero thing. Whereas like that was awesome and juicy for a book.
Yeah.
Longer than that, it's like maybe not.
Yeah, I think Marsh is actually a great parallel.
Could Odium just directly assume control of the Unmade? Is that true?
I don't think Odium could, but I think you could make the argument that Retribution could, because if there's if they make an oath to do what Odium wants, then if they break it, they would be under his control or something.
That I agree with. Yeah,
I think that Odium said, or I think Sionat in Oathbringer or Rhythm of War says that Race didn't like when his subordinates didn't follow his instructions, but the power respected their passions or whatever.
She was also worried that Odium would just unmake her again.
Yeah, so I think that's the ultimate threat that, when you're in that entity's power, like let's say that if it was actual unmade fused Dalinar, qualifiers there,
Blackthorn.
Yeah, that if he got too uppity, it's like, okay, that didn't work, let's run it again, let's unmake him again. Yeah, and he could do that.
But yeah, I do hope that we get some, pulling up the quote again, it's like Taravangian is sort of happy, or he explicitly talks about how like this, he calls the Blackthorn a true champion with incredible battle acumen, brilliant understanding of tactics and strategy, and Dalinar's stubborn force of will, but without the weak inhibitions of his old age, such as having been broken by his wife's death. And so I can see why that's I can see why that's appealing to Taravangian as a general.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I always felt that one of the things that I was looking forward to most from a fused Dalinar was the Taravangian Dalinar discussions that they sort of had in Oathbringer, where like Taravangian would basically have a captive subject to debate with if he had fused the entire Dalinar. So I hope that we get something like that somehow with whatever bits of Dalinar are still in the Blackthorn.
Yeah, but I'm not sure we will. I can see why you're disappointed in that, because there's definitely some aspects in some other series I like where a main character is in another very powerful person's power, and rebelling against that is very interesting to read, and being forced to do things that the character would really rather not do. I like it.
Yeah, I think that's not the vibe I'm getting from the Blackthorn. I think the Blackthorn is going to be very, Blackthorn, right?
He's going to be the obstacle now.
Yeah.
We got to see him take over Elantris with his laser gun. And oh my god!
I feel like if anything, this is going to be like Blackthorn's going to be like Taravangian's not going far enough. This is the guy who contemplated killing Gavilar, but this time he doesn't have any emotional connection to hold him back if he gets the opportunity.
Yeah.
The Blackthorn would have absolutely just crunched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Blackthorn actually has to comfort Odium or Taravangian because Taravangian is distraught that he lost Dalinar, and the Blackthorn says to him, he was weak. I am not weak. I will not do the things he showed me. I will not weep drunken when an assassin must be fought. I will not back down from the fight and conquest.
Yeah.
So he certainly is looking forward to it, I guess, which is good for him.
I think, and I was going to say this earlier, and what you just read reinforces that. I think the bits where the Blackthorn is going to be interesting. I don't even know if we're going to ever get a POV from his perspective. But I think the bits where it gets interesting and crunchy is when we see the Blackthorn react to Dalinar and go, with a little bit more nuance than just, oh, he was weak and I'm not. But kind of that I don't think we're going to get philosophical debates between the Blackthorn and Taravangian. I think we're going to get kind of philosophical clashes within the Blackthorn as he considers Dalinar.
Yeah.
And dismisses him.
That'd be very cool. He's definitely going to be relevant for the Greater War of the Cosmere. When Brandon says, "Hey, when I take you to the stars," it's like, that is Brandon being very clear as to what's going to be happening with this. Yeah. So we'll get Hoyd on a spaceship, Kelsier on a spaceship, Blackthorn on another spaceship, and that's what's going to happen in Era 5 or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. Dalinar's not going to enjoy space battles as much, though. Sorry, not Dalinar, Blackthorn, excuse me.
Less intimate.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
less visceral.
Less visceral. Yeah. You can't even hear the screams of when they die because it's in space. Come on, it's not the same.
Yeah, I guess you can spawn. No, can you? It would probably be so prohibitively difficult to build an atmosphere for your space battle so that you can hear people screaming.
If the battle's going on in Shadesmar, if it's going on in Shadesmar, then there is air.
Yeah,
so you can hear it.
yeah.
Or something spiritual realm. The screams just echo through that.
They reverberate through the
You put up spiritual realm speakers so that you can just hear the screams of your enemy.
Love the spiritual
to be
speakers.
Honest, would Retribution do that for Blackthorn? Yes. I think the answer is yes, 100%. It's oh, yeah. Those Zeth screams, no, you got to hear a lot of them, actually. And I want you to like them.
It's actually good for you.
It's good for you, yeah.
It's just hook up, there has been a disturbance in the Force into a set of speakers.
Yeah.
It's sound realmatic shenanigans.
Yeah, it's the tone of it's some tone, some rhythm.
Maybe the Blackthorn's shard plate will have built-in surround sound, so you can listen to it at all
screams. Honestly, okay, I know we're memeing, but how badass would it be if Blackthorn in black shard plate shows up and everyone around just feels this twisted unease of the screams of those that the Blackthorn has killed? That sounds amazing, actually. Holy crap. I can imagine that description. That's good.
Sure, we can make that work with.
We can make that work.
The
power
surgeons
of spiritual mumbo jumbo in this book, guys, is infinite. Off the charts.
Infinite.
We can make anything work in the Cosmere.
It's the mumboest and jumboest of spiritual mumbo jumbo.
That's good. That's true. Getting back from the spiritual realm, though, back to Roshar, maybe. There's some other effects. Roshar was affected. a little bit. I'm sure nothing changed too much on Roshar, really. We just noped the high storm, so all the ecology's dead, and then we have the Everstorm, which in retrospect, it was weird that the Everstorm was called it in Words of Radiance. In retrospect, I was like that, interesting.
And I think, I think at the time we justified it as, the high storm is maybe not eternal. Maybe it's not a single storm that circles the planet. It is the Origin sends a new storm every time, so it's not really ever high storm, but the Everstorm is a singular storm that like is always somewhere, which, you know, in hindsight was never a good justification.
This is not. This is the Everstorm right here. It's like, oh, the sky is black everywhere except us here. Like, oh, okay. And I guess maybe Urithiru. I don't know.
Urithiru is above it. It is above the They like there's maybe like it's not Navani's POV, but it's someone's POV as they see like I think it may be Dalinar as they see like the Everstorm expand and like blanket the land below them.
God, that's horrifying.
It is the image of it is deeply troublesome to my soul.
It's just like a blanket of darkness.
Yeah, no, just and like for like real talk for anyone who has been like on like a skyscraper, like one of the tall like 100+ story skyscrapers, and like you can, I mean maybe no for anyone who's been on a plane, right? You know the blanket of clouds beneath you, and like you can very easily imagine being like on a mountaintop and like not having that blanket, and then you see from the mountaintop just this darkness expands to cover
everything,
the planet.
All the continents, at least.
Just like imagine all the people like in Urithiru looking out that giant window of the clouds spreading out below.
Yeah. People in the atrium in back half, they're like, I don't like looking out of this window. Actually, guys, I'm not a fan.
We just get there's giant curtains in the
just giant big curtains.
Giant curtains covering
democracy
the whole
says we need the giant curtains. This sucks. We don't like it.
A kilometer tall just piece of fabric.
And that's what you need the will shapers for, to make that taut.
Yes.
Easy. Nailed it. Bringing it together. No,
Wait.
Stonewards. Stonewards do taut.
No, well, but the will shapers make fabric stiff. That's what I'm saying.
Rigid.
Right? Rigid?
No, that's
tension. Wow, very Stormfather of you.
Yeah, that is very Stormfather.
Yes, bondsmiths would very storm.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, you know, I think I'm just eternally screwed up by Brandon clearly screwing up which other surge Dalinar has, and I'm perpetually think that it's switched because Brandon fooled me, and then the Stormfather's like, hey, that's the surge you don't have. I'm like, oh good, that's a good thing. But yeah, so no more Stormlight. Krem gone. I guess Kremcast is dead. But you know, we can, you know.
Do we know
but
that?
now last wob.
I don't know if we know that did the rain that comes from the Everstorm have Krem? That's an interesting question.
But like the new Everstorm, does the new Everstorm have Krem?
Sorry, that's what I mean. But like, does
because
the rain
it did
from that? Yeah,
eat the high storm.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But certainly, like the way Roshar's formed, with it being blasted from the east, like, oh, that's gone. We're done. It's done.
Lates are no longer lates.
Yeah,
they can finally have normal buildings in Eastern Roshar.
Buildings. Congratulations, guys.
Looking on the bright side,
they can have windows through which they can see
darkness,
the eternal night.
Hey, maybe some people like that. It's not seasonal depression if it's just all the time, guys.
Yeah, any world hoppers from the dark side of Teldane will be right at home.
They'll be right at home.
Finally.
Yeah. Perfect.
Except they wouldn't, because like there's no like on dark side, at least they have like the star marks and stuff to like provide light.
There'll be war light. It'll be fine.
Yeah, the dark blue light is going to shed a lot of illumination.
It looks great here. Come on. I have Warlight right here, actually. I prayed to Teravangian, actually, and he did deliver. He delivered me a great Black Friday deal.
I'm legitimately so curious to see like the Roshar map in the back half of like the flooded Pure Lake that's now just part of the sea, and like I don't know whether surely there are other changes in the geography, like
maybe
so many more rivers and lakes and things.
The chasms in the Shattered Plains may just fill up.
Oh,
yeah.
I will say this is one of the more baffling parts of the ending to me. Like, I would. Okay, presumably the nations will be probably called other things, right? Like, it will certainly never be a Lethkar on the map anymore. It's done.
I mean, I think it would get renamed to something more Singery,
but like
I don't think they would change that much.
Yeah, but I'm just like, why do we need to change the geography? I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know why we needed to do that personally. But maybe they were just like, yeah, back half we got to have a new map, guys. Commission a new world map.
Isaac was getting bored of doing VP things and was like, I want to draw a new map.
Oh yeah, Isaac has tons of free time to do things like that. Yeah.
Well, I think a map of Roshar in the back half would just be like clouds and then an Aesir shaped hole.
Okay, legitimately, that's hilarious.
I can draw that.
Maybe we should actually do that for our Roshar timeline. Just like after
we should
that,
do like an overlay with the Everstorm.
I like
One
that.
other thought with the whole Everstorm thing, because like it's not over Azir because like Azir like was part of the coalition, all of that didn't go along with Taravangian.
Mhm.
There's also a line about how many of those who rode the beasts in the Reshi Sea also did not go with Taravangian. So is there just like a spotlight over each of the Taina?
That's amazing.
And it's just moving as they move.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, remind me. It's not the whole planet. It's just over the continent, right? Like, if you go out to sea, do you eventually get away from the Everstorm?
I don't think so.
We don't have a POV of the middle of the ocean.
Well,
yeah,
I
we
think it's like
don't
the
know.
Storm where it's just surrounding the planet.
That's my expectation.
It may not be over the Shattered Plains. I'm not clear on if that's explicitly stated.
I believe it is.
It is not I don't know why the Shattered Plains don't get a ray of sunshine, but it doesn't seem like it is certainly not called out that they do. Now that could be right. The one over Azimir only happened like a few months later.
Yeah.
So it's possible that like the way the timeline works, like it's possible that we see the Venli POV much earlier than that.
Yeah, I
And so
forget
it's possible
exactly
that
what
it's
time
like
that is.
it's not mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't think. But
There-
it could be like Eurythiru here, and then a spotlight here, and a spotlight here on the two sides of the
Good.
continent.
I don't think it does have a spotlight because I'm pretty sure there's a line like in Taravangian's POV about the listeners of like he didn't have to like go along with their whole gambit, but he's choosing to.
He uses the word autonomy. I remember that.
Yeah, because like technically they're not part of the coalition, so like they don't
They
get the free
wouldn't
pass.
automatically get it. Yeah.
So it's like they have like political autonomy, but they're still from like the Dawn Singer Empire.
But not
Or
like
whatever.
autonomy from the storm, because they weren't part of the
Yes.
coalition. Yeah.
Okay,
I-
so it's multiple layers of how much do I like these people.
I do like that we're discussing Ray of Sunshine mechanics on the show. I think that's good. I think that's excellent.
No, it's just it truly messes me up to just think that, you know, I'm here living my best life in Chicago, and one day the entire planet is just night. It is eternal night. That it, you know, maybe if I lived like somewhere with you know, way up north or way down south, where we have like these long days and long nights, like maybe that would be less disturbing to me. But just the concept of eternal night is terrifying.
It's upsetting for sure.
How much do you guys think the former satellite states of Azir like regret their decision now?
Oh,
Do you think
they
they're just,
better
like-
regret it.
Like, I could have been part of that ray of light if I hadn't negotiated with Odium.
Yeah.
Like they should be so glad I'm not the Azish Prime. I would be so in their face about like, wouldn't I so enjoyed the sun upon my skin. You'll suck.
Yeah,
that would be insufferable.
We talked about it a little bit on Reacts too, I think.
Okay.
But kind of the idea of, okay, well, do we now have a horrible immigration problem as people from surrounding like city states and satellite states like want to, like, because the borders are frozen, but I don't think that means that people can't just up and move.
Would that even be allowed, though?
Moving is one of the fundamental rights of
Yeah,
because there's also talk about how if the Sunmaker's Gambit hadn't happened, there was talk about how there would be like instigating events along the border that would lead to the whole war restarting. And so I think that implies that there's no like magical separation between
there 100% is not.
Yeah. I'm more just thinking like I feel like Teravangian seemed like he would take a role in making sure that his empire was well functioning, and so I can see that though there wouldn't be like a magical barrier between the places, which would also suck storytelling wise. I can see legally in the Dawnsinger Empire that it would be illegal to do that. You get to move within the Dawn, and you can't go these other places.
But Alethi law, which is apparently the basis for the contract.
Welcome to the show, Grace.
The right of movement is like fundamentally baked into it, right?
Yeah, but like Retribution's right around it. Like, who cares?
I think the right of travel is for specific levels of the non and Dawn.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's
except like the last one. I think it's only like the very lowest that doesn't have
But it's the Dawn, like Dawnsinger law is what matters. And Dawnsinger law is like, no, like the humans stay where they're supposed to be.
True.
Right of travel was instituted or at least inspired by the heralds. Nail, actually.
Well, we're going on Dawnsinger law now, but I do love the take of Alethi law, Grace. That's always will never not be funny ever.
Except when it's sad.
Oh yeah,
well, we laugh because it is sad.
Yeah, the Venli passage was just a day after Retribution.
Okay, so there's room to argue that they may sometime get sunshine, potentially.
Yeah, maybe.
I do like your argument, Ian. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's under night, but they have political autonomy. So it's really funny using the word autonomy. Does Brandon ever be like, this is not meant to be? This will get the Sharders thinking, and I don't want them to, actually, but there's not a better word.
I don't think he ever considers that.
Yeah, Brandon doesn't care.
No, he doesn't.
He knows when it's actual autonomy and when it's not actual autonomy.
But yeah, it's just so dire because Stormlight is just so important for everything. Oh no.
It's interesting to me. The thing I always kind of go back to is those like Night of Wind and Truth epigraphs, the ones where the author is saying like, oh, like most of my information comes from corresponding with Yasna, who's okay talking to like a Shin woman. So like clearly there's some infrastructure set up, like that's because that's written like 6 years after the end of the book or something.
And one thing that's specifically called out is that span reads don't work.
Yeah.
So,
but it's interesting to me that like by the time 6 years have passed or whatever it is, they've figured out enough that a Shin woman can talk to Yasna in like cut off Erytheru.
Yeah. I mean, the state of the world and things, that's going to be all stuff.
I do want to point out it's not a random Shin woman. It's Seth's wife.
Well,
so like there is some level of connection there.
It's a random Shin woman in the sense that she is a woman who lives in Shinovar talking to someone who is trapped in Erytheru. Like,
the mechanics of that is unclear at this current stage.
There's the idea of Spren. Yasna can talk to Spren in Shadesmar from the tower. So there could be some like the Spren set up a mail service or something, but I feel like that's just random speculation.
Yeah, I'm sure like at first they're gonna like it's gonna be clunky like that. They will figure something out that's better.
I think you're gonna have Warlight span
Yeah.
rates eventually, right? Surely, something like that.
Yeah, but what kind
But
of
can you
spread
get
would
more
you
light
need?
within your ethereal?
Well,
Probably
okay,
not.
that's
Well, they can
that's
get
good.
tower light in Earth 3, right?
Yeah, but then could those?
Yeah, but only there.
Yeah,
Yeah. But then outside you could get more light, maybe.
yeah, but
But
could
I
you
guess
bind the
If you
rubies,
have
though?
a span read
Yeah.
with one
Oh, yeah,
or like
yeah.
one
Yeah.
power light, will that work?
And
Mhm.
also, what kind of spren, because
Yeah.
regular span reads don't work on void light, and
Mm.
you need an enlightened
Mhm.
flame spren for that.
Mhm. Yeah,
And so presumably,
Yeah.
so it gets messy, and I think some of us on this call are gonna have to deal with Brandon's nonsense,
Yep.
but not for years.
I guess one thing
Yasna is
this
just
is-
going to learn how to make very, very tiny L skates. And you can just talk through
Mhm.
that.
I mean, that's
Oh,
actually
no.
that's actually
Yeah.
plausible. Yeah, for sure.
Now you're thinking with portals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what this is getting at is what is Retribution going to do with is his plan just to let them do what they want to do in Azir and the tower for the foreseeable future while he consolidates power and tries to he's got some we get a POV of him after the ascension, so we have some idea of what he's up to, but
Well, he's hiding, first of all.
Mhm.
His plan is to leave Roshar to a steward, which I think a lot of us like L for that role.
I mean, who else?
I mean, probably not the Blackthorn. I think the Blackthorn is a bad idea for that.
That seems unwise.
So he is in hiding. He doesn't. If he has any plans, he's not acting on them.
Mhm.
I think he has to let them do their own thing for 1,000 years.
Unclear.
I don't think he has to do anything. He might want to do something to placate the honor half of him.
Yeah, it's if he wants Honor to not leave him, he needs to leave them alone for 1,000 years.
Yeah. It really is so wild, though, because for so many books are the desolation's coming, guys. We got to stop the desolation. We got to fight in the desolation. And now we're the desolation's here. Everything sucks. There's no more cycles. The cycle's done. We did it. They won. And so, where's the conflict and stress going to be in book 6? I don't know. We'll have an episode on it, but it's very interesting to think about what things mean, what will happen.
I do want to circle back to because I think we started talking about the effect of the Everstorm on the ecology and the ecosystem and all of that stuff, and then I think we immediately went off on some tangent as we are wont to do.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea. So I think Stormlight is gone. Lifelight was never really a factor on Roshar as far as we know.
Yeah.
I think Warlight can serve just as good of a purpose in the ecosystem and sustaining great shells and allowing them to live and plants and stuff like that. There is a wonderful line or a few lines from Teravangian's POV that I really like, where he goes, "Oh, they will all depend on my light now," which is very in line with his character and his need for control. Does a great job of so it's okay, so everything, yes, there's no more Stormlight, but everything now depends on Warlight, and he can just choose to for anyone in his empire, which is 95% of Roshar, he can just choose to say no, you don't get this thing, and within probably a few weeks
Their society's crumbled. Yeah.
Just starve this section of his empire to death, right? I also like the idea. I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen, but there's a bit about all the listeners have to pray for Warlight.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the entire continent, just because there's no more High Storm to deliver Stormlight in waves. I like the idea of at a given moment in time, just the entire Everstorm flashes with Warlight and everyone on the continent gets an infusion, and that's just their
there's a line about having to do it at midnight.
Yeah, you have to do it at a certain time. Yeah.
At midnight.
So
yes.
Does Roshar have time zones?
Yes,
obviously
it does actually.
Does it have formalized
I
Honor
think
would make sure that whatever time zones. Honor will do the time
Honor
zone
will honor
conversion.
the time zone.
Yes, we all know.
Yeah, so-
we all know that that's very important to honor.
Yeah. So I think functionally is probably kind of the same thing where like a wave of warlight
Mhm.
like sweeps the
That's
continent.
so creepy to imagine. Just like everything's
So-
dark, and then just like all these like
Uh-huh.
gemstones light up in this.
Sort of
Dark blue
parallels the High Storm and how the High Storm in Shadesmar looks like, where it's
A
like
little
just a
bit,
wave
yeah.
of light that
Mm,
sweeps across the sky.
yeah, but
Yeah,
it might not be like a
I-
wave, but might be more instant,
Mhm.
right?
I mean, like if you look at it from like a zoomed out view, if it's like local midnight everywhere,
Oh, okay, sure. In
Mm.
that sense, don't think Brandon thought about the time zones in writing this. I'll be honest.
I think so.
I mean, the Chasm Fiends were already using Odium's investiture to grow with the Well of Control. So I think,
Yeah.
like, from an ecology standpoint, if they can get Warlight, I don't think that it's going to be an issue for, like, 99% of things on Roshar
Hmm.
versus Stormlight. I don't know. I just wonder, like, I know the people have to, like, pray to get it in spheres. I just wonder how much, like, the nightly infusion or whatever, like, how can Terravange and can Retribution actually stop it from, like, leaking out enough to, like, make great shells grow? I don't know.
Yeah, I think fauna will like passively get it. I don't know if flora is going to exist outside like mortal like cultivation.
I
Like-
don't think it's in Terravangian's interest to let all the like flora and fauna die. 'Cause
It is his empire.
Yeah. So I think if there's like a plant that needed some specific relationship with the high storms to survive, then I would imagine that he would do something to either replace the plant or fix the plant so that it would continue to serve its purpose.
Yeah, my point was more plants generally need lowercase light,
Mm.
which like can be like supplemented with like investiture light. So
Which I think
but,
is
like,
what's happening.
So he's just doing that for every shrub in the wilderness.
Well, I think what's going to happen is like this idea of like a wave of warlight sweeping the continent daily or nightly, I suppose, and that is like providing the both the lowercase and the uppercase light for everything, right? And so plants are no longer getting sunlight, but once per day, once per night, they are getting they're getting warlight shining on them, and that is sustaining them.
From what we've seen of plants growing by light, it's like sustained, like
Yeah.
you have a gemstone shining down for like
yeah.
all hours.
Is
I don't think like a 1 minute burst of light every day is enough.
Is Canticle a joke to you?
This is Roshar.
Sure.
You're operating on Roshar rules.
But this is a new Roshar.
It's
Like
new
we can change the
Roshar.
rules.
New Roshar. Though there's an advantage to not having the ecology collapse, I think there's another aspect that, yeah, I mean, you have to stay in my cities to get the stuff. Like, oh, if you want to
Yeah.
go out there, like, that sucks for you. Good luck. So there's an argument to be made that maybe that won't happen too much. And I mean, the thing that's wild to me is Terravangian hiding. And so, like, how much work did he do before he did that? Like, it's unclear, you know?
Presumably he set it up so it's like self-sufficient.
Yep. I want to talk about some Cosmere stuff. The time dilation.
Mm.
Time is dilated. We are presumably syncing up the timelines.
It's gotta be, right? When you
between this and or between the next Stormlight and the next Era 3.
Yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
be around the
For
same.
this work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The time dilation was wild. It's like, oh, okay. That's what we're
Mhm.
doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Pretty
was
neat way to handle
surprising.
it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there was much discussion with his timeline people, and I'm sure this will have no confusions for any previously established canon.
I'm sure that'll be really fun to make a book to deal with how the years go. I'm sure that won't be. Yeah, that'll be fun.
I think understanding of the time dilation has been mostly okay. Like I don't think anyone's like really confused by that.
Only confusing thing to me is it's not clear to me how far the time dilation extends.
Sure.
Like, does it extend to Braze and Ashen?
Yeah.
Which is only really relevant for the Oathpact stuff, which we're not really going to be focused on this episode.
Yeah, we're going to do a separate Oathpact episode. Lots of stuff.
It's also largely irrelevant because the Heralds are off in their own, like they have their own rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried. I personally think it covers the entire system. It doesn't super matter. It's whatever Brandon wants it to be.
Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like it has to be the whole system. Otherwise, the orbital mechanics really get messed up.
Okay, that's actually the most fair point. That gas giant's just over
like,
there, yeah.
Yeah, like this planet is just moving suddenly slower. Like that's gonna mess things up.
Right, okay, it needs to be the whole system, guys.
Whereas like if it like a star moving slightly slower, I don't think is as bad.
Damn orbital mechanics, man. They get us every time.
They get in the way of all of Brandon's fun.
It could work if it's just Roshar. It would just, I feel, would take active maintenance by Retribution when he really doesn't want to be in everybody's face.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, not that has ever stopped Brandon from presumably, autonomy has left Taldane long ago, and the weird Taldanian moon is still doing that weird thing where it circles. It's
like autonomy invested the sun or the light of the sun, however that works.
The Everstorm is,
and that's just reinfusing the lashing that's on the moon that's making it do
same idea.
It doesn't matter if the orbital mechanics are wrong because the entire planet is covered by clouds, so you can't see them to tell they're wrong.
Yeah, the astronomers only Azish astronomers can astronomy. Only them.
But yeah, time dilation is obviously the intent is to sync up with Era 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
How exactly synced up the two series are going to be is up for debate, right? I think you can make an argument for them happening at the same time, for one happening a little bit before the other. Yeah, and that's just going to be up to whatever story Brandon wants to tell.
Yeah. He'll figure that out.
But it's not going to be a scenario where okay, we're going to do the break between Era 2 and Era 3 is decades.
Yeah.
And the break between Arc 1 and Arc 2 of Stormlight is a decade. There's a magnitude issue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if Arc 1 and Era 2 both end at roughly the same point, apparently.
And so I think where we're going to be left with both of these is we know that the far distant future of the Cosmere is a galactic war with varying temperature, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't think either planet gets to space, because Era 3 is meant to be more and closer to Earth analog. And Roshar is, for Roshar, it's only going to be a decade. Or so. And so we don't get to space. We sync up with the two planets, and then after their series end, at some point in the future, both of them get to space.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think we could get both planets send spaceship up and get to the moon on Roshar type spaceship by the end of the. But with the, I think we can get to them. I think we could step foot on the moons of Roshar before the end of the back half.
That's true.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at because Era 3 is 1980s Earth. We were setting up tons of stuff into
Sure. Okay. Yes. That's fair.
I don't think we're getting anywhere close to FTL travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have like satellites, I think, but not
yeah.
interplanetary travel. Yeah,
I can buy that.
You need
barring like
Roshar is a little weird because it has to rely on Fabrios for that stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they're getting close to flight, and I think they can figure out pressure stuff from like Windrunners.
From Windrunners.
I don't think they're that far off if like they really set their minds to it and we're like, we really want to see what's up with those moons or something. Like they can figure it out.
I think for Roshar, it's more a matter of they probably have more pressing matters than visiting the moons.
It does seem like the work that they have to do is much more immediate.
Hey,
for their situation.
maybe they're like, hey, we would like to nope out of this planet.
I'm going to the moon instead. This sounds way better.
I think if they were doing that, I would just walk. Personally, but
they can't. Like, they can't get to. I mean, I guess L scholars can send them to Shadesmar. God.
Yeah,
we know the end of Stormlight is somewhere hidden in the books. Maybe it's the Queen Saw, and it's like the end of Stormlight is them setting foot on the moon.
I
Sleeping
love that,
with
actually.
the moon.
It's free real estate.
Yep.
Free real estate.
The moons were not included in the contest rules.
That's
Real
true.
estate.
Yeah, you can go
God.
take over.
There's nothing in Alethi law saying you can't be on the moon.
Does retribution happening and cultivation leaving mean that one of the moons is going to disappear and the other two moons are going to like crash into each other? And
Sure.
'cause we know that they of course they parallel the shards.
Yeah,
as we all know. And
They
so,
have to. Yeah.
But there was fourth
You
moon.
have
They
to-
didn't always parallel the charts. We don't need to get into this right now.
That's
Yeah.
why Aiden Alzium noped it out of existence.
Yeah.
He knew what the shards on Roshar were
Yeah,
going
he was upset. He's like, I didn't want 4.
Of the 16 ruled in the sky, but now the broken moon.
Oh my god, I would actually kind of love
I
that.
actually kind of love that. It's the moon.
Yeah.
Because like
I
do
was
know,
hoping
like,
you wouldn't
the-
get there.
the orbits of the moons are unstable.
yeah,
It's
very-
totally
yeah.
plausible the green one could just get yeeted off to space.
On
and
an
then the other two smash
astronomical
together.
scale, they're not.
Look, back half is actually going to be a lot about space, and it's going to be about blowing up the moons, actually. And then fourth moon will rain. Boom.
It is really funny to consider the
It's-
fourth one is the broken one, though. That is just.
It's really funny. I want to ask you guys, what do you think of Spiritual Kharbranth? Do you think, I know there's some people who do not like this. Are you find this cool that Teravangian has a weakness? What do you think?
Oh, I go back and forth on this one, which is I know I'm doing a little bit of fence sitting on this episode, but it does feel like Brandon wanted to have his cake and eat it too. In that, we get the kind of the ruthless Teravangian in Interlude 6 or whatever, where like he seems willing to sacrifice the thing that he loves most so that he doesn't have a clink in his armor. And then we also get him at the end where it's like, he actually is also a hypocrite, and that is, potentially going to help contribute to a future downfall, right? So now we have child honor in there, we have Kharbranth. There are pieces that others can manipulate.
I dislike it. The reason that I liked it when we had the interlude where Kharbranth was destroyed, I thought that it was a very cool way of showing that. So like the reason we were given for him destroying Kharbranth, in my mind, was he recognized that having those people there was a weakness for him. And I think that in my mind, Teravangian is not the kind of person to ignore that. And I think that showing him destroying Kharbranth was sort of showing to the readers that he has really graduated from wanting to protect Kharbranth to his goal of seeing like the Cosmere in general as something he needs to fix and protect. And I get that by walking that back, we're showing that he's like in world a hypocrite, and I appreciate that. But I liked it more when he wasn't doing it to trick cultivation. He was doing it because he felt forced to, and he didn't like it, but he had to.
It made him also so much scarier, I think, when he was willing to do that.
Yeah, and I'm also sort of like mechanically confused about how he was able to like just kill those, because he specifically did not protect the agents of cultivation who kidnapped his family. And I thought that cultivation, based on the conversation he had with cultivation in a previous interlude, that he wouldn't be able to do that, like just kill people that weren't his. And so that was just sort of a mechanical confusion that sort of, when I thought that he like destroyed Kharbranth, I was like, well, I guess Kharbranth is his, kind of, even though he's not the king anymore. But it was just sort of, there were some mechanical confusions in the scene, and then, but emotionally, I liked the idea of him actually destroying Kharbranth.
I'm on record as loving this, and I still agree with myself. I love Taravangian being a big fat liar. It's great.
I think for me, I like it, but not for Taravangian. I like the idea of this like spiritual realm, almost like step forward society place that exists, and like I am intrigued by when we'll see it again and what the people who live there will react when they like, because they have to eventually learn the truth about what's going on and what happened to them and like what happened to their world. So I think I like it and I'm intrigued by it for that sense. I don't really have any feelings about like Taravangian being a heavy foot or not.
I feel like if this were to be a plot point later, I'd be fine with it. But it sort of smacks to me of one of those things that happens in this book and then is never brought up again. But I'd be happy to prove him wrong. Yeah.
I wonder if the way Brandon deals with it, and I don't know how I feel about that, but I wonder if like, you know, middle of back 5, we, like, one of our protagonists finds out about this somehow and like goes there, and we have like a few scenes or a few chapters or whatever that deal with this, and that forces Taravangian to actually commit to the destruction of Kharbranth. But I feel like that is not going to bring the level of like fear that was there when we thought he had actually destroyed it in the first place. It would, like, I feel like that would be a weaker, yes, we still end up with Kharbranth destroyed, but I feel like that does less for everyone involved in that plot.
Yeah, it's like I feel like this was a show of force to the other shards. Like, this is not for the mortals of Roshar. It's like, it doesn't change how afraid they should be of retribution. They should be the most scared of retribution, period, whether or not he killed Kharbranth. This was a show of force to the other shards. So, like, that reveal, like, I don't think should be to the mortals of, like, it's like once it gets revealed to the other shards, like, it doesn't matter if, like, he kills Kharbranth at that point. Like, he's already showed, like, he's a big fat liar. That, like, yeah, like, it's like totally different. Like, if he preemptively, as far as they are concerned, killed and murdered Kharbranth. If he's then backed into a corner, it's like, oh, I guess I have to kill them anymore. Not as scary to the other shards.
I have a bit of a conspiracy theory that Kharbranth and spiritual Kharbranth will be important as being the one place you can still get Stormlight, because
that's actually
everything in Kharbranth is like, it's set up as like these people in Kharbranth are living their lives as they were before. They just are like, okay, we're protected. The world still exists the way it was. We just can't travel anywhere as part of the like negotiations for like how we are safe. I think part of that has to be like they are still getting regular high storms and Stormlight in order to live their lives normally. And so I am also very intrigued by this as like, will this come into play as in they'll like, if there is a way to travel between spiritual Kharbranth and Roshar as a way to like bring Stormlight back to the planet to some extent.
If you could. But I like that. That's interesting.
That's an interesting idea, yeah.
I will say I agree that this is about the other shards and what Retribution is willing to do. And personally, I think it's more interesting storytelling wise to have this as opposed to, yeah, he's really scary. Like this gives a little bit more dimension to it than just, oh yeah, he's bad, man. Like he's a bad shard. So I really like that there is a weakness that could be exploited. Because I'm gonna disagree, Grace. I want other shards to come to Roshar. I don't care if it doesn't make sense in the context of a 10-book series that is not Rosharan-centric. I don't care. I want the war for the Cosmere. That's what the book says. I think it's totally plausible that other shards will show up. That's totally plausible. I want the other shards to find out that he's a giant hypocrite. And then I don't know where we're gonna go with that, but that's definitely a flaw that they can exploit. Like this is the one of the two things, the other thing being the honor baby, right? Like these are the flaws in what Retribution has built, other than just he's not really ready for the big conflict, right? Like I guess that's the third thing. But as far as things that we can do to potentially defeat this person, these are the two. And so I find that it's very necessary and interesting that that's there.
The other idea for Kharbranth I was wondering about is, well, if the other shards find out, is there a world in which they destroy Kharbranth and that like pushes Teravangian over some kind of an edge if he does something?
Like to attack something when he's not ready or something, yeah.
Either plays his hand a little too early, or attacks someone, or like decides to punish. Like maybe he can't go and take out Mercy, for example.
Sure.
But he can like punish the Rosharans for what has been done to him, and that's like an escalation of the Stormlight conflict.
It's hard for me to imagine what the story's going to be shaped like, because it's just like, oh, wow. But I like that there are these story hooks that can be very interesting. And so I think this inherently makes it more interesting long term.
Yeah, I will say, Eric, I also do hope other shards show up in the back five, but I kind of would want to parallel like the level of shardic involvement in the front five. Whereas like Way of Kings, like, okay, like a memory of honor shows up at the end and like he mentions a couple names. Contrasted with like a lot of shard stuff happening in book 5. And like they're kind of being a gradation.
Yes,
so it's
agreed.
Like book 6, I don't want Valor to just rock up and start talking to people.
Absolutely agree.
Agents of other shards, they're game from the get-go. But like I want like a growth of shardic involvement. Likewise, like I don't want Retribution. Like I don't want Retribution flash viewpoints in book 6. Like this should be like a start grounded with the mortals, and then like him like coming out of hiding as the story goes.
Yeah, and get more cosmic. I 100% agree with all that. But the sailors on the Infinite Sea could be agents of another shard, guys. Like that, they could be Valor Knights. Just saying, that's possible. How Pooley knows about that, I have no idea, and how that legend happens.
Something may be destiny.
Spiritual realm. They saw it in
the words have been written.
Fortune, baby.
They asked one of the night form a long time ago, and they weren't guarding a prison. They saw the future, and they saw the sailors. That's legitimately a plausible way for this legend to spawn, actually.
I mean, I have said for a long time that I think that, like, the sailors on the Infinite Sea, they'll come with light in their pockets, they'll come to destroy. It will be, like, the inciting incident of back half in a similar way that, like, the, like, Everstorm was, like, the inciting incident of the front half, almost. Or, like,
that'd be awesome.
Sort of thing.
I mean, we need some inciting incident for book 6, right?
Yes. Yeah, right, exactly. I think, guys, we are going to talk extensively about all these sorts of things, of just the state of Roshar. What's the back half gonna look like? I love doing those episodes because they're always wrong. It's so much fun for people to go back and look at them. But I think you're all very interested as well with that. I think we've talked about basically all we want to say. Any final thoughts on this one? We talked a lot about Retribution. We will talk about the Oath Pact. We deliberately did not in this one, and the Spren, so we will get there. But any closing thoughts on our good pal Retribution? Hey.
I had a stray thought when we were talking about the Blackthorn.
Okay.
And like the fused Dalinar, unmade Dalinar, fused unmade, cognitive shadow, spiritual Dalinar. And I was like, oh, Blackthorn sounds not quite like an unmade name, but not entirely unlike one. So in a world where there exists the Blackfisher and the Midnight Mother, the Blackthorn is in the same area. I can buy that. That seems neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could see a world where Brandon at some point thought that he may go the unmade route and planted the name Blackthorn as like a some architecture to build a different version of the ending off of.
We thought it was because he got peppered with arrows, but it's because
still so weird, but okay. I think my final thought is I don't know how this is going to work, but I really found it compelling. Just the war won't end unless the powers want it to. And so that's just going to be very interesting in the future. There cannot be peace until that's dealt with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can see a roadmap to Honor wanting to end the war. I don't see one for Odium.
Yeah.
At this point.
Ending the war is just victory, right? You know?
Mm-hmm.
I can see Odium choosing to wanting to leave more than wanting to win Roshar.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I can see the power going, hey, this place has been a trap for me for so long. I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah. I don't see a path to Odium wanting to end the war, but you said the end is victory, and I can almost see a path where the power goes victory is in its grasp, but it leaves people fighting because it doesn't actually want the war to end.
That's interesting.
Teravangian would want to crush all opposition and win the war, but the power might not actually want that. The power just wants endless fighting.
It is called Warlight.
I think the only thing with that, Grace, is that Teravangian could just tell the power, it's yeah, but I'm going to go wreck that place. There will be, I promise there's going to be a lot more fighting.
This is when he is on the brink of winning the entire Cosmere.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. In that case, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that this is going to happen anytime soon. I'm saying the end point for the war is Teravangian wins the entire Cosmere, and I think at that point the power would be but then who are we gonna have conflict with to feed me?
I think I kind of love that, actually.
Yeah, I like the contrast between Teravangian wanting to rule as a king and the power just wanting to conquer. I guess my final thoughts would be I thought that this was the day 10 in general and the sort of resolution to the Contest of Champions specifically was my favorite part of the book.
Yes.
And I liked how it seemed like we didn't touch on this at all, but the sort of my other favorite part of the book being Adolin's whole arc, I think tied very well into this with the ideas of promises versus oaths and just sort of, I think many people have had this idea for a really long time that honor is not a good thing. Whether or not you think that Tanavast was ever a good person, I think that I appreciate that this book very much came down on the side that I think is correct, which is, honor was not a good thing. Tying that into retribution and all that, I thought was all very well done.
Yep. All right, everyone. So we're going to head on over to who's that Cosmere character?
This character is from Roshar.
Menace. Tien.
Tom.
Braze.
Void in drag on a horse.
It's time for Who's That Cosmere Character? Caw. Welcome to Who's That Cosmere Character, the game show where you send 5 clues in a character to wtcc at 17char.com. I read each clue aloud, and these guys have a chance to guess who's that Cosmere character. This went long, shocking. Wow, but we are going to do one from our Who's That Cosmere Character priority queue. And the instructions on this say that they want their name to be anonymous. So, okay. We will do that.
Well, thank you for your submission, Anonymous.
Yes. Clue 1. This character is not from Roshar.
Impossible. Every character is from Roshar.
Yeah.
I was going to make the joke that this was just Tom fan, and the answer was Tom, and that's why he wanted it to be anonymous.
yeah.
But that's immediately proven wrong.
I mean, no.
Talon is from
it's
Roshar,
the
isn't
one
he?
herald from Roshar.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will go with Reinstrile.
It is not Reed's trial.
Shockingly. Somehow it is not him.
Can you get 5 clues about Reinstrile?
What was that? What? That's Kenton's dad?
I don't
right?
think Reinstrile
No.
is even a character.
No.
Oh, that's
anymore.
Dryle's dad?
Dryle's dad.
Dryle's dad. Okay.
Dryle's dad.
Jesus.
I am going with Axendweth.
Ooh, it's not Axendweth.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Is it Hunky K, aka Driok Crushdroth,
I believe his name's Keen.
aka Kai-Ein?
No.
Is it Yaddle?
No, it's not. Clue 2. This character has had POV chapters in more than one Brandon book.
Bayon.
Not Bayon.
We haven't had a Bayon POV chapter in Stormlight. I just jumped the gun.
Can you read that again? I want to hear the exact wording.
This character has had POV chapters in more than one Brandon book.
So this could just be an Arrow 1 character who's only in Arrow 1 but has POVs.
I
in all
believe
3
that
books.
would be consistent with what this says, yes.
Yes.
Is it Marsh?
It's not Marsh.
I will go with Kelsier.
Not Kelsier.
Not all along. I wonder if I would consider the Stormlight epigraph letters as POVs from.
I personally
There.
wouldn't. Maybe the submitter does.
Have we technically had an endowment POV?
Hoyd.
It is not Hoyd. Clue 3. This character has been held and interrogated.
Vasher.
Not Basher. Good guess.
Yeah, that's the
I
obvious
was
one.
going to guess Vasher.
Yeah, he's had
Vin.
multiple POVs too. That's good.
This is clearly what they want us to guess, but you kind of have to.
Is it Vin?
Not Vin.
Oh, is it Tensoon?
It is not Tensoon.
Is
I
it
also-
Kalak?
It is not Kalak.
Kalak's a good one.
Clue 4. This character is mentioned in the diagram.
Oh no.
You can't look it up. You can't look it up. You can't look up the
I'm typing
diagram.
my clues.
Okay.
You can see my cursor in the document.
Yeah, I'm
do
not
know
on
the
that
diagram
tab.
that well. I'm trying to go through my Rolodex of diagram epigraphs, but I don't know them at all.
I am trying to see if I can make Nightblood work.
Oh, is it? Wait, what was the wording of the third clue exactly?
The third clue. Well, so I did add a word to it. So the original wording is this character has held and interrogated, and I assume that must mean has been held and interrogated
Or,
because that
or
does
was.
yeah something like that, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Something I know. I mean, Odium is clearly held on Roshar. I don't know if he's been interrogated.
Oh, is it no? Doesn't POV.
I like how we're getting to this matches 3 clues. Nope, it doesn't match the 4th one. Okay, never mind.
Because the only character I can think of that gets mentioned is Mraze.
Okay.
And like that's definitively cannot be the answer.
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe Azure, because not from Roshar, but she doesn't have multi-book POVs unless you count Nightblood, which presumably, which
No.
I don't.
I was going to say Moloch because he had been interrogated by the diagram. Don't think that counts.
That's actually really funny, and I like that.
I'm gonna squint at the clues that don't work for me and actually guess Vivenna.
It is not Vivenna.
Okay, yeah.
Shocking.
Because I was like, well, maybe she is the previous owner of Nightblood. That was, yeah, but I guess that's we don't know that. So
I feel like I'm going to be annoyed when I get the answer for this one.
how is this not Vasher?
That's potentially, it may potentially be annoying. Yes. Not maybe for the reason you might expect, though.
It's not okay. I'm just gonna guess because I'm gonna guess Syl.
Not Syl.
Okay.
I'll just guess race.
Not Race.
I'm gonna guess Mraze.
Not Mraze. Clue 5. This character's palms are used as a curse.
Don't.
Okay, it is Town. And it was
Okay.
submitted by Town Fan. And it was submitted in August, so I don't think they knew that he wasn't from
Okay, so they didn't
Roshar.
know that Tom
Yeah.
was from
Yeah.
Roshar. Okay.
This is invalidated. This does not count for statistics because
I know. I
It is
think
wrong.
I should get that right because I called who sent it.
Instantly.
Yeah, if anything, Grace gets the point for that.
Yeah,
one.
I didn't.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
I didn't
Before I
think.
give my opinion on this, I'd like to
Yes.
know who is getting the point for this.
God, I don't know, man. Like, I don't run the spreadsheet of who assigns the answer. I do think Grace immediately calling the shenanigans is
Yeah.
hilarious to me. So I think I'd
that
have to
doesn't
say
count
Grace.
as an official answer. We
Oh.
have correctly identified the characters in the past, but not locked in that answer.
Okay,
so.
that's fair. Yeah.
I feel like since one of the clues is factually wrong.
Wait, is the other Brandon book that has had a POV like unpublished? Is that what's
I don't
tricky
know,
about
but
this?
bring it up with Town Fan. I don't know what he's
No,
talking about.
It was. There's an Atone interlude, and then
Oh, and then
What
there's
else?
you have a POV. I assume he has a POV in like Oathbringer or something. I don't know.
I thought it was Ash.
think so.
I
don't know.
can only think of the interlude.
Yeah, so
Unless you count Way of King's Prime, right?
send your angry comments to Town Fan. I did not quite process that one of the clues was invalidated by Wind and Truth, so maybe I should have disregarded. But
Yes, you should have.
but I thought it was fun this way, and no one sent in Wind and Truth things, so how
You
would they
could have
know?
picked a non-Rosharan character.
No, I think this is fair because the submissions are valid for within the time frame
Yeah.
in which they are sent.
Yeah.
We cannot be held responsible for Brandon changing his mind in the future or clarifying something in the future.
I will say that's valid if Eric had explicitly called out this was pre-Wind and Truth.
Do you think with our backlog we would be doing submissions from the
I
past
thought that
week?
was inherent.
I know. I mean, it's possible that someone sent in one, and Eric was like, "Oh, this is new Wind and Truth, so I'm going to choose the fun new Wind and Truth character."
I have done
Like,
that
has
before.
happened
I have done that before, but our priority queue goes to the end of October.
Yeah. And because hey, I read this book a long time ago. I have no concept of time anymore. That I need the reminder of what things are valid for who's that Cosmere character.
Hey,
I think that's
you-
fair. I slightly empathize with that. But
you accepted the beta status. You have passed the F around phase, and now you are in the find out phase.
This is such a betrayal of the guy who looks like me.
well,
Okay.
if anything, I think this gives more entertaining content, because there were so many comments of just like you and Ian looks alike, which is endlessly funny. So I think let's start a beef between you two. I think that'd be good.
Okay.
I think
So
let's start.
Is the start of the beef.
This is the start of the beef. Yes, absolutely. 100%.
The 17 shard lore of Ian and Will looking the same, of Feather and Gray being the same person.
I will just say, it is not standard for us to mention when things are sent in, but if I was asked, I would answer. Because I feel like if I specified, then that would be giving things away. And also, I didn't know what to do once Grace found the name of the game. and you guys were like, oh, well, it's not. I'm like, well, crap, guys, I don't know what to do here. But I'm just gonna let this roll and see what happens. So maybe, I made a wrong call, but I didn't want to let Town Fan down, is what I'm saying. So anyway, send your anger comments to @1Town Fan in the chat, please. That'd be great.
Just know that he is staff now, so he may ban you if you send the wrong opinions about Town.
Yes, if you do not think Town is awesome, you're banned. So I guess Matt's banned because Matt doesn't like Town.
But you can't think too highly of him, because you would usurp the position of number one Town fan.
I mean, Town Fan has commissioned Town art, so I mean, you do need to get pretty high up there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Well, I think that was commissioned in as a group by the Town fan club.
Yes,
that's true.
So.
Yes, that is true. Anyway, maybe we'll talk about Town sometime on the show. I mean, we'll have to talk about Heralds.
I don't know. Did anything significant happen with Town in this book? I don't quite remember.
I think it was off screen, actually.
Has he even tried to kill anyone of significance?
I don't think so.
I mean, Abini's not. Those just didn't matter. It's fine.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you can find us on 17shard.com for news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. We have a Discord that is our Wind and Truth Spoilers channel is crazy.
Unstoppable.
It is unstoppable, much like the Everstorm. It will never end, ever. You can support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. I do want to mention, actually, because I totally forgot to actually put this on the YouTube community tab. We have a store. You can buy stuff. You can buy apparel. Links in the description, and so you can do that.
You can rep the 17 shard. You can rep the Copper Mine. You can rep Arcanum.
You can, and there will be more. I don't know. I don't want to make any promises because the merch took a really long time for us to get started.
There may be more in the future.
Maybe, probably.
But that is, we are not ever going to be within Retribution's power if we don't make that happen.
That's right. Look, I think we've wanted merch since like maybe 2011. So, we're on doing great. So yeah, check that out. And you can, support us on the social medias that we might post to. I don't know what we're doing with any of that.
When we get around to doing social media again, it's going to be blue sky.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
100%.
You can find us there.
But yeah, thanks for listening. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.
See you later, Oathbreakers. I don't know what I'm doing.
Bye.
That's the Oathbreaker symbol. Call.